Joshua Bailey's medical scanner confirms what his eyes already tell him: the Yadaran female's emerald scales are cracked and seeping vital fluids, her bioluminescent markings flickering weakly in the crimson shadows of the massive tree dwelling. He wasn't supposed to find her here in the abandoned settlement of New Canopy. He wasn't supposed to find anyone at all during his routine botanical survey of Research Outpost 47 surrounding jungle. The wounded Yadaran Nora, she calls herself, flinches as he approaches with his field medical kit. Her large eyes, filled with a mix of fear and desperate hope, track his every movement. At 20 cycles old, she's barely an adult by her species standards. The personal belongings scattered around her makeshift hiding spot tell a story of hasty evacuation, of lives disrupted and futures uncertain. The Archpatriarch's forces came without warning, she explains, her translator struggling to keep up with her rapid speech. Kayvon claims the prophecy demands all females be relocated underground for species purification. Her voice catches. Those who refused were attacked. My sisters fled deeper into the uncharted regions, but I couldn't keep up after they hit me. Joshua's hands steady as he applies regenerative gel to her wounds, knowing full well he's violating the human diplomatic corps' strict non-intervention protocols. The scanner reveals extensive tissue damage, but nothing life-threatening. As he works, his eyes drift to the scattered botanical samples and research notes left behind by the settlement's inhabitants. The complexity of their pharmaceutical knowledge is staggering, formulations that could revolutionize human medicine. The reason for the HDC's interest in Yadara Prime becomes crystal clear. These females aren't just refugees. They're keepers of invaluable scientific knowledge. Knowledge that's about to be lost if the Archpatriarch succeeds in his religious crusade. His comm unit chirps, displaying an urgent message that makes his blood run cold. Attention all human personnel. Immediate evacuation ordered. YADERAN Government DECLARES Human Presence Culturally CONTAMINATING. Compliance mandatory. Joshua looks at Nora, then at his comm unit, then back at the wounded Yadaran. The choice before him is simple but carries impossible weight. Follow orders and abandon Nora and her people to their fate, or risk a diplomatic crisis between Earth and the Yadaran Patriarchy by helping her find the other displaced females. In the dense canopy above, the crimson leaves whisper with the evening wind. Somewhere in the uncharted jungle, Nora's sisters are hiding, carrying with them centuries of irreplaceable botanical knowledge. The evacuation alert continues to flash insistently on his comm unit, demanding an answer. Joshua switched off his comm unit's alert with a swift motion. "I can help you find your sisters," he said, securing the last bandage over Nora's healing scales. "But we need to move quickly." He packed his field kit with practiced efficiency, adding extra regenerative gel and vital sign monitors. The abandoned settlement's research lab yielded additional supplies: portable scanners, preservation containers, and botanical sampling equipment that might prove crucial for documenting the female's scientific work. "Stop right there, Bailey. Doctor." Marcus Henderson's voice cut through the dim light. The outpost director stood in the doorway, his expression stern. "You're violating direct evacuation orders." Joshua held up his survey recorder, displaying footage of wounded Yadaran females fleeing from armed males. "Look at this, Marcus. They're destroying generations of research, attacking their own people." Henderson's face softened as he watched. Without a word, he moved to a sealed cabinet and entered his override code. "Take these." He handed Joshua a modified tracking unit and several sealed packages. "Experimental compounds from Earth, they might help." The evacuation sirens grew more insistent. Henderson checked his watch. "I never saw you, I never gave you anything. Find them, Joshua." As the last transport lifted off, Joshua and Nora slipped into the jungle's embrace. Her bioluminescent markings provided just enough light to navigate the dense undergrowth. They moved carefully, pausing at each sound. "Heat sensors," Nora whispered, pointing to a patrol of males ahead. Through the foliage, Joshua observed Lieutenant Arzal, his scales bearing elaborate rank markings, directing his soldiers to scan the canopy. A female lay bound at his feet, her scales dulled with fear. "Another one for purification," Arzal announced, prodding her with his boot. "The Archpatriarch will be pleased." They circled wide around the patrol, using the thick vegetation for cover. A rustle ahead made them freeze. A young female emerged from behind a massive trunk, her markings dimmed to near invisibility. "Mela," Nora breathed. "You survived." The scout beckoned them toward a towering tree unlike any Joshua had seen in his surveys. Its trunk was wider than a dropship, with ancient carvings barely visible beneath centuries of growth. "The Mother's Heart," Mela explained, leading them to a concealed entrance. The males forgot this place exists. They descended through passages lined with luminous fungi, their light mixing with the female's natural glow. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber within the tree's hollow core. Dozens of Yadaran females worked at cultivation stations, tending to plants Joshua had never seen in any database. Elder Sira awaited them, her aged scales bearing intricate patterns that spoke of wisdom and authority. "Joshua Bailey," she said, switching off her translator to speak in perfect English. "I remember when your kind first arrived, before the Archpatriarch restricted our contact." She guided them to a cultivation chamber where iridescent flowers pulsed with their own light. "The night bloom," she explained. "One plant can extend a Yadaran's life by decades. This is what Kayvon truly seeks." A young female burst into the chamber, her markings flashing in distress. "The northern growing site," she gasped. "Kayvon's forces found it. They're burning everything." Through the complex's biosensors, they watched helplessly as flames consumed generations of careful cultivation. Sira's markings dimmed with grief. "3 sites remain," she said, her voice heavy. "Without them, our people's future withers. The males believe they can simply take our knowledge, but the night bloom responds only to female energy signatures. They would destroy what they cannot control." Joshua examined his stolen research equipment, already formulating plans to document and preserve what he could. The females' botanical knowledge was more than mere science, it was their heritage, their power, and perhaps their only hope for survival. Joshua examined the soil samples from the burned northern site through his portable analyzer, the holographic readout confirming his suspicions. "These mineral signatures are unique to areas where night blooms grow. Kayvon's forces are using them to track the remaining locations." Elder Sira's markings pulsed with concern as she studied the data. "Then we must move quickly." The closest surviving site lies within the Singing Caverns, hidden behind the Great Falls. Joshua packed essential equipment while 3 of the colony's most experienced botanists gathered specialized cultivation tools. Nora, her wounds now sealed beneath fresh scales, insisted on joining despite Elder Sira's concerns. The journey through the jungle required careful navigation. Joshua's modified sensors detected heat signatures of multiple search parties. They passed the scorched remnants of the northern site, where ash-covered ground still radiated warmth. The acrid smell of burned night blooms hung in the air. A low growl stopped them in their tracks. Through the dense foliage, Joshua spotted a shadow stalker, its serpentine body twice the length of a human, covered in sensory organs that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. The creature's handler, a male wearing Talon squad insignia, stood nearby. "Commander Vrix wants the entire sector swept," the handler ordered. "The females can't hide forever." The shadow stalker's head snapped toward their position, but its sensory organs flickered in confusion. Joshua's human heat signature disrupted its tracking abilities, creating a blind spot that allowed the group to retreat undetected. "The beasts were bred to track Yadaran biology," Nora whispered as they put distance between themselves and the patrol. "Your alien presence masks our signatures." The singing caverns lived up to their name. Water cascaded through naturally formed acoustic chambers, creating haunting harmonics that echoed through the stone passages. Master gardener Elara awaited them at a hidden entrance, her ancient scales bearing patterns Joshua had never seen before. The night blooms respond to more than just female energy, Elara explained, leading them through crystalline tunnels to a vast underground garden. They require precise amounts of mineral-rich water and specialized light from our bioluminescent fungi. Joshua helped install modified research sensors around the cavern's perimeter, creating an early warning network. The botanists worked with Elara to cultivate barrier vines, their growth accelerated by carefully formulated nutrients. His comm unit, salvaged from the outpost, crackled with an intercepted transmission. To all HDC personnel, Joshua Bailey is wanted for multiple treaty violations. The Yadaran Patriarchy demands immediate compliance. Senior Agent Wang has been dispatched with Cultural Liaison Lieutenant Arzal to perseverance the situation. Wang's walking into a trap, Joshua said, recognizing Arzal's name from their earlier encounter. But he might be our only chance to expose what's really happening here. Elara approached, her markings dim with urgency. The night blooms enter their decennial pollination phase in 3 days. Without it, we lose centuries of carefully preserved bloodlines. The sound of falling water couldn't mask the approaching whine of search drones. Joshua checked the sensor network's display, counting multiple signatures converging on their position. They had hours at most before Talon's squad discovered their location. He needed to reach Wang before Arzal could compromise the diplomat's mission. But first, they had to secure the cavern. Joshua began reconfiguring the waterfall's flow using techniques he'd learned from Earth's historical resistance movements, creating natural choke points while the botanists established their living barriers. The night blooms pulsed with increasing frequency, their pollination cycle already beginning. Time was running out on multiple fronts, and Joshua knew his next decisions would determine not just his fate, but the future of an entire culture's biological heritage. Joshua accessed the outpost's auxiliary systems through his field tablet, bypassing the primary channels that K-Von's forces monitored. The damaged communication array still held enough functional nodes to establish a secure relay. The pollination chamber needs constant atmospheric regulation, Elara said, adjusting environmental controls while Joshua worked. Each degree of temperature shift could disrupt the entire process. His modified scanner displayed 3 distinct heat signatures moving through the jungle in coordinated patterns. Commander Vrix's strike teams left swaths of burning vegetation in their wake. Smoke drifted through the cavern's natural ventilation shafts, carrying the acrid scent of destruction. There's more at stake than the night blooms. Elder Sira guided Joshua deeper into the gardens, revealing chambers filled with carefully preserved seed specimens. Each vault contains generations of botanical knowledge. She indicated crystalline containers housing iridescent flowers. The dawn shard. Its pollen disrupts shadow stalker sensory organs, but the harvesting process requires precise timing. Elara examined the dawn shards through a specialized scope. 3-day cycles minimum. The pollen must mature naturally. A proximity alert flashed on Joshua's tablet. He switched to thermal imaging, revealing a human heat signature approaching the concealed entrance. The figure moved with practiced stealth, avoiding K-Von's patrol routes. Dr. Martinez. Nora's markings pulsed with recognition as the botanical researcher entered, carrying sealed specimen containers and data crystals. "I couldn't leave," Helena said, connecting her research unit to Elara's cultivation console. "Not with the night bloom's decennial pollination cycle approaching. I have vital data on maintaining viable samples during environmental stress." Joshua studied the incoming sensor feeds while Helena integrated her research. A familiar figure caught his attention: Karel, a former sanctuary guard, patrolling the perimeter of V-Rix's Northern Strike team. The guard's movements seemed hesitant, his scanner sweeps deliberately shallow. "I knew Karel," Nora said, watching the feed. He opposed Kayvon's purification doctrine until they threatened his clutchmates. Joshua's tablet chirped Agent Wang had established a diplomatic outpost in Kayvon's territory. The agent's location data placed him uncomfortably close to Arzal's command center. A message followed, requesting a meeting at coordinates that bordered one of Kayvon's military installations. The seismic sensors are detecting unusual patterns. Helena indicated subsurface anomalies on her scanner display. These readings match historical records of tunnel networks from the last female uprising. Elder Sira traced the tunnel routes on the holographic map. The old passages connect multiple temple sites. Many intersect beneath Kayvon's breeding facilities. Joshua cross-referenced the tunnel system with V-Rix's patrol patterns. The strike team's systematic burning created a closing circle around their position. Smoke continued seeping through the ventilation shafts, threatening the delicate balance needed for pollination. "We need to contact Wang before Arzal compromises him," Joshua said, examining the meeting coordinates. "But first we have to secure these gardens." His tablet displayed Karel's patrol route. The guard would pass within range of their short-range communicators in 2 hours. Meanwhile, Elara continued the careful process of preparing the dawn shards for pollen harvesting, her movements precise and deliberate. Helena analyzed the smoke particulates drifting through the ventilation system. The atmospheric contamination will reach critical levels within 6 hours. The night blooms won't survive prolonged exposure. Joshua configured his sensor array to monitor both the surface patrols and the underground tunnel network. The meeting coordinates Wang provided lay between 2 shadow stalker patrol routes. Making contact could expose their location to V-Rix's forces, but without diplomatic intervention, the female's situation grew more desperate by the hour. A new alert appeared: unusual movement patterns in the tunnel system beneath Kayvon's primary breeding facility. The seismic sensors detected multiple Yadaran signatures moving through the ancient passages. Either escaped females had discovered the tunnels, or Kayvon's forces were already exploring the underground network. "Your window for reaching Wang's position is closing," Helena warned, studying the patrol data. "V-Rix's teams will completely encircle this sector by nightfall." Joshua checked his remaining equipment. The experimental compounds Henderson had provided remained secure in their sealed containers. The modified tracking unit could guide him through the tunnel system, but first he needed to make contact with Karel. The former sanctuary guard might provide crucial intelligence about V-Rix's operations. Elara adjusted the dawn shard's environmental controls. 2 more day cycles before the first pollen samples mature. We cannot move the specimens before then. The cavern's biosensors registered increasing toxicity levels from the surface fires. Joshua examined the underground map again, noting multiple ventilation shafts that could be sealed to protect the gardens. But preventing smoke infiltration would also trap them inside with limited air reserves. His tablet displayed Wang's message again. The meeting coordinates pulsed on the tactical overlay, a dangerous but vital opportunity to gain official support. Time pressed against them from multiple directions: the advancing strike teams, the night bloom's pollination cycle, the dawn shard's careful harvesting process, and Wang's narrow window for contact. Joshua studied the tactical overlay one final time before making his decision. "We'll meet with Wang, but not without safeguards." He transferred the sensor data to his tablet and turned to Elara. "How quickly can you prepare a sample of dawn shard pollen?" "I can stabilize a small quantity within the hour," Elara said, her markings pulsing as she worked at the cultivation console. "The specimens aren't fully mature, but they'll disrupt Shadow Stalker's sensory organs for brief periods. "I'm going with you," Nora said, checking her equipment. The tunnels near the mining facility connect to 3 separate exit points. I memorized them during my sanctuary training. Joshua accepted her expertise without argument. The cavern's biosensors showed increasing toxicity levels from V-Rix's surface fires. He helped Dr. Martinez and Elder Sierra establish additional protective barriers around the night bloom chambers, while Elara prepared the pollen samples. "The pollination process can't be rushed," Helena said, adjusting environmental controls. "We'll maintain continuous monitoring through the sensor network. These specimens represent our entire future." Using his modified scanner, Joshua mapped 3 escape routes through the cavern system. The first led to a concealed valley entrance, the second emerged near an abandoned water processing facility, and the third connected to a series of maintenance tunnels beneath the mining sector. Elara approached with a sealed container. Inside, iridescent pollen particles swirled in a carefully regulated suspension. "Handle it with extreme care. The stabilization matrix will only last 6 hours." Joshua and Nora reached the abandoned mining facility 30 minutes before Wang's scheduled arrival. The structure's deteriorating walls bore scorch marks from old plasma discharge weapons. Joshua's scanner revealed 3 observation posts, 2 on adjacent ridges and 1 concealed within a defunct ore processing unit. "Kayvon's forces," Nora whispered, examining the tactical display. "But they're maintaining standard patrol patterns. They haven't detected us." Wang arrived alone, his diplomatic uniform dusty from travel. His measured steps and careful observation of his surroundings spoke of extensive field experience. Joshua's scanner confirmed no active tracking devices or weapons. "I received your data packet," Wang said, entering the facility's main chamber. "But I need concrete evidence before I can act officially." Joshua transferred the soil analysis results, medical records, and surveillance footage to Wang's secure tablet. "Kayvon's forces are systematically destroying sacred sites and relocating females to controlled breeding facilities." Wang's expression darkened as he reviewed the documentation. "There's more happening here than you realize." Kayvon has been negotiating with Earth's biotech corporations. Exclusive access to Yadarin botanical research, bypassing diplomatic protocols. A high-pitched whine cut through the air. Shadow stalkers emerged from multiple entry points, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with predatory intensity. Commander V-Rix's voice echoed through the chamber. "Secure the human diplomat. Eliminate the others." Joshua activated the Dawn Shard container's release mechanism. Iridescent pollen filled the air, causing the Shadow Stalker's sensory organs to flicker erratically. The creatures writhed in confusion, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. "This way." Nora led them toward a maintenance access panel as plasma bolts impacted the walls around them. They descended through narrow utility shafts into the facility's lower levels. Karel's voice crackled through their comm unit. "Northern exit route clear. Move now." The guard's diversionary attack drew V-Rix's forces away from their position, but subsequent weapons fire and a cut transmission indicated his capture. They emerged from the maintenance tunnel into dense undergrowth. Wang's comm unit chimed with an urgent message. His face paled as he read it. "Kayvon has ordered immediate processing of all females in the breeding facilities. It begins at dawn." They reached the sanctuary to find Helena examining complex data patterns on the cultivation console. "The night blooms interface with a planetary fungal network," she explained, displaying underground mapping data. "We could use it to preserve specimens, but we need access to the central node beneath Kayvon's main facility." Joshua examined the network schematic while processing multiple priorities. Karel faced execution. Thousands of females awaited processing, and the night bloom's critical pollination window continued shrinking. His tablet displayed a new alert seismic sensors at Research Outpost 47 detected drilling equipment moving through deep tunnel systems. Elder Sira indicated a detailed holographic map of the ancient passages. These tunnels can get us into both the breeding facility and fungal chamber. We'll need 2 teams, operating simultaneously. Joshua began assigning roles based on each female's specialized knowledge, knowing their next actions would reshape their entire society. The sanctuary's warning system, activated Kayvon's mining equipment, had discovered something in the depths, and they were running out of time to act. Joshua's tablet displayed readings from Dr. Martinez's specialized seismic sensors. The data confirmed his fears. Kayvon's mining equipment generated distinctive vibration patterns matching band plasma drilling technology. They're approaching the primary fungal node network, Helena said, analyzing the incoming data streams. The drilling signatures indicate Class 4 plasma equipment, black market, military grade. Elara's markings pulsed with alarm as she studied the underground schematics. The female botanists of previous generations prepared for such violations. She accessed a secured database node, revealing complex biochemical formulas. We developed a defensive strain of rapid-growth fungi capable of stabilizing compromised cave systems. But activation requires specific enzymatic keys, Elder Sira added, indicating 3 distinct points in the tunnel network. Each control point must be accessed by a qualified female botanist. Joshua processed the tactical implications while monitoring the mining operations advance. We need multiple teams operating simultaneously. He transferred updated sensor data to his tactical display. Wang, can you delay Kayvon through diplomatic channels? The agent nodded, examining the weapons trafficking evidence on his tablet. I'll activate special containment division protocols. Botanical weapons proliferation provides sufficient justification. Joshua divided their resources, assigning specialists to 3 tactical units. Alpha Team will extract K-Rel and the captured females. Beta Team secures the fungal chamber and establishes new sanctuaries. Gamma Team activates the defense system. Nora interfaced with the facility's security network, revealing new complications. Arzal has installed sonic barrier generators throughout the breeding complex. They're designed to disrupt our echolocation abilities. Joshua distributed modified human night vision equipment to Alpha Team. Will breach during the atmospheric purge cycle when they're forced to deactivate the sonic grid. A coded message pulsed through their monitoring systems, transmitted through the facility's waste management channels. K-Rel's distinctive signature conveyed critical intelligence growing dissent among the guard force, particularly regarding Kayvon's treatment of female elders. Several guards have been reassigned to high-risk mining operations, Nora translated, her markings dim with concern. Helena configured portable sensor arrays for Beta Team. The fungal networks are showing increasing stress patterns. We need to establish new growth chambers before structural integrity fails. Elara prepared specialized cultivation equipment for Gamma Team. The defense strain requires precise environmental conditions. We'll only have 1 attempt at activation. Joshua's tactical display highlighted power distribution nodes connecting both facilities to geothermal taps. We could overload the grid, disable both operations simultaneously. He indicated the structural analysis overlay. But we risk tunnel collapse if the fungal reinforcement isn't active. Movement patterns on the perimeter sensors drew his attention. VRIX's shadow stalkers demonstrated modified patrol behaviors, suggesting countermeasures against their previous Dawn Shard tactics. They're maintaining distance from ventilation outlets, Nora observed, adapting their sensory organs to filter botanical agents. Joshua adjusted their infiltration plan, accounting for the new Shadow Stalker protocols. Alpha Team moves in 6 minutes. Coordinate with Beta and Gamma for maximum disruption. The breeding facility's atmospheric processors began their purge sequence. Joshua led Alpha Team toward the perimeter, tracking VRIX's units through modified thermal imaging. Above them, Agent Wang's diplomatic shuttle lifted off, carrying vital evidence toward Earth's administrative channels. The first sonic barrier powered down, creating their window of opportunity. Joshua signaled the advance, knowing their success would depend on precise coordination between all three teams in the ancient tunnels below. Joshua's team advanced through the darkened corridor as the atmospheric processors hummed through their purge cycle. He activated 3 modified research drones, their heat signatures creating phantom movement patterns across the facility's thermal imaging grid. On his tactical display, red dots representing shadow stalker units diverged from their patrol routes, pursuing the false targets. Deploying Dawn Shard countermeasures, Dr. Martinez whispered through the comm, releasing compressed air canisters at key junctions. Iridescent pollen particles dispersed in precise patterns, forming an invisible barrier. 2 shadow stalkers rounded the corner, their bioluminescent patterns flaring before they collapsed, sensory organs overloaded by the concentrated pollen. A high-pitched buzzing drew Joshua's attention. Through his night vision equipment, he spotted a swarm of small, metallic-looking insects emerging from wall-mounted dispensers. Tracker wasps, Nora hissed, pressing against the wall. They detect Yadarin biochemical signatures. The team froze as the insectoid swarm swept past, following pre-programmed search patterns. A door slid open ahead, revealing a male Yadarin in medical attire. He gestured urgently for them to enter his research station. Chief Medical Officer S. Wren, he introduced himself, sealing the door. I've been documenting Kayvon's experiments. He transferred data to Joshua's tablet, revealing horrifying laboratory footage. He's corrupting night bloom extracts, weaponizing them through forced evolution. Through their encrypted channel, Elder Sira reported from the fungal chamber. Beta Team has breached the outer wall, but Kayvon's mining operation arrived first. The sound of shifting metal echoed through the comm. We found a survivor mining engineer T-Lock. The genetic archive, T-Lock's voice wavered. Kayvon isn't just destroying night blooms. He's searching for the complete botanical records of our ancestors. Joshua's tablet displayed an urgent update from Elara. Gamma Team has activated 2 control points, but Arzal's forward command post blocks access to the third. Their seismic sensors track all tunnel movement. The sensors interfere with waste management, T-Lock added, creating regular blind spots during maintenance cycles. Karel's coded transmission pulsed through their secure channel. Kayvon has ordered immediate termination of female elders. He believes their bioluminescent patterns contain encrypted genetic data. Dr. Martinez's voice carried barely controlled panic. The fungal network is degrading. Heavy metal contamination from the mining equipment. We have less than 6 hours before permanent damage occurs. Joshua studied the structural analysis T-Lock provided. Strategic placement of explosives could trigger a cascading system's failure, forcing evacuation while disabling the mining operation. But one miscalculation could collapse the entire tunnel network. His tablet displayed Wang's latest intelligence update. Kayvon had begun broadcasting manipulated evidence, painting the female Yadarans as bioweapons developers. Conservative human factions demanded military intervention against the insurgency. A proximity alert flashed on Joshua's tactical display. He enhanced the audio feed, catching fragments of VRIX's transmission. Steel Claw Brigade. Elite Insertion Team. Specialized for subterranean combat. We need to move, Joshua said, checking his modified scanner. Next maintenance cycle begins in 4 minutes. We'll use the sensor blackout to reach central control. Through the observation window, tracker wasps swarmed past like a metallic storm cloud, hunting for Yadarin pheromone signatures. Beyond them, The breeding facility's central control room waited, its reinforced doors guarded by shadow stalkers equipped with new sensory filtering devices. Joshua synchronized their assault timing with Beta and Gamma teams. They would have one chance to coordinate their attacks before the Steel Claw Brigade arrived. The maintenance cycle countdown continued its steady progression toward zero as he made final adjustments to their infiltration plan. The maintenance cycle timer hit zero. Joshua signaled his team forward as facility sensors went dark. They moved through the dimmed corridors in 3 coordinated groups, using the temporary blindness in K-Von's security systems to their advantage. A thunderous impact shook the walls. Through the observation windows, Joshua spotted the distinctive silver-chrome armor of Steel Claw Brigade troops rappelling from transport vehicles onto the facility's upper levels. Commander Kathax's augmented form stood out among them, cybernetic enhancements gleaming under emergency lighting. "SREN, we need those environmental controls now," Joshua transmitted as his strike team pressed forward. The medical officer's fingers flew across his console, uploading modified Dawn Shard compound to air filtration system. Displays showed the golden pollen dispersing through ventilation shafts. Metallic buzzing filled the air as tracker wasps began dropping from their patrol routes, their targeting systems overwhelmed by the specialized pollen. K-Rel's voice cut through their comm channel, sonic barriers powering down in sectors 7 through 12. Nora's markings pulsed as she activated her natural echolocation. 6 guards in the next junction, 4 moving away. From Beta teams positioned deep in the facility, Dr. Martinez's voice carried rising urgency. Heavy metal concentrations increasing exponentially. The corrupted night bloom extracts are accelerating contamination. T-Lock interrupted. "The coolant system, we can redirect it through these maintenance channels. It won't stop the spread, but it'll buy us time." "Do it," Joshua ordered, leading his team around the corner. They encountered 2 shadow stalkers, but the modified pollen had compromised their sensory filters. Quick shots from stun weapons dropped them before they could raise an alarm. Elara's transmission crackled through their encrypted channel. "Gamma Team has reached the final control point." "Arzal's forces are," her voice cut off as warning klaxons blared. "Detecting paralytic gas in lower tunnels," Nora reported, analyzing atmospheric sensors. "Gamma Team's oxygen reserves at 60%. Joshua's tactical display updated with new threat indicators as Steel Claw troops began systematic sweeps of each sector. Their enhanced sensor suites could penetrate the Dawn Shard's protective screen. "Henderson's faction is behind K-Von's weapons," Wang transmitted from his diplomatic post. "Sending confirmation now. The Trade Commissioner's been supplying experimental tech through black market channels." Emergency lights flashed red as Commander Vrix's voice echoed through facility speakers. "Security breach detected. Initiating data purge. All research samples marked for immediate termination." "Joshua," Dr. Martinez called out. "The fungal network, it's not just connected to the night blooms. The entire botanical archive is encoded in its cellular structure." Elder Sierra's voice carried both excitement and fear. "Our ancestors preserved everything within the living network itself." But the contamination. A blast door sealed ahead of Joshua's team as Kathax's forces engaged their sonic weapons. The modified frequencies cut through their defenses, sending waves of disorientation through the team. "Multiple tunnel breaches detected," T-Lock reported. "Mining equipment approaching sanctuary coordinates." Joshua checked the structural overlays. They were 30 meters from the control room, but the Steel Claw Brigade had established blocking positions at every approach. Beyond those forces, the captured females awaited processing while critical evidence of K-Von's crimes degraded in computer banks. In the opposite direction, the mining operation threatened to expose the last hidden sanctuaries of preserved night blooms. The choice pressed down on him as tactical displays showed both threats advancing simultaneously. Nora's markings pulsed with new information from her echolocation. K-Thax is deploying additional sonic emitters. We have minutes before they lock down this entire sector. Through the walls, Joshua heard the grinding approach of mining equipment moving inexorably toward the hidden gardens. His tactical display blinked with urgent warning indicators as both crises demanded immediate action. Joshua processed the tactical data streaming across his display, reaching a swift decision. Nora, take K-Rel and 3 units to protect the sanctuaries. Everyone else, prepare for frontal assault on central control. Acknowledged, Nora said, her markings pulsing as she signaled K-Rel. They split off down a maintenance tunnel, racing against the approaching mining equipment. Joshua led the remaining forces toward the steel claw position. K-Thax's sonic emitters powered up, generating waves of targeted interference that shattered their dawn shard pollen screen. Joshua tapped his tactical display, accessing facility environmental controls. SREN, initiate emergency purge sequence in sectors 4 through 8. The medical officer's fingers danced across his console. Atmospheric processors roared to life, creating violent pressure differentials throughout the corridors. The sonic weapon's effectiveness plummeted as their waves scattered in the turbulent air. Breach teams move in, Joshua ordered. His units advanced through the chaotic environment, targeting K-Thax's destabilized forces. Deep in the facility, Dr. Martinez's voice carried newfound urgency. Elder Sierra, look at these metabolic readings. The night blooms aren't just resistant to heavy metals. They consume them, Sierra finished. Quick, prepare grafting equipment. We'll need precise synchronization with the defense network's growth patterns. Martinez transmitted coordination data as they began the delicate process of integrating preserved samples into contaminated sections. Each graft required split-second timing to match the fungal network's natural rhythms. SREN's voice cut through the comm channel. Biological containment failing in female holding sectors. His tone carried carefully measured satisfaction. How unfortunate. Freed females emerged from their cells, led by a tall figure with intricate bioluminescent patterns. I am Ria, she announced, addressing Team Gamma through their tactical network. My sisters and I will extend the fungal reinforcement through the facility's support structures. T-Lock's warning preceded the explosion by seconds. Gas pocket. Mining operation breached. The blast wave rattled through the tunnel network. Joshua's tactical display lit up with structural warnings. Rerouting main generator power to containment fields, Joshua transmitted. All teams be advised targeting systems are offline. Through the facility speakers, Commander Vrix's voice echoed, initiating final containment protocol, neurotoxin deployment in lower sectors in 30 seconds. Joshua's tablet flashed with Wang's priority update. Henderson's weapons deal confirmed. Special Containment Division mobilizing. Kayvon appeared on Joshua's thermal imaging, racing toward a secure data hub with research files. Emergency lighting cast stark shadows as neurotoxin warning indicators activated throughout the lower levels. Target spotted, Joshua transmitted, moving to intercept. He paused, watching toxin levels rise in the female holding sectors. Joshua, Elder Sierra's voice carried desperate intensity. The captured females, their patterns contain critical night bloom sequences. Without them, entire genetic lines will be lost forever. K-Rel's voice cut through. External defenses compromised. Team Gamma has secured evacuation routes, but Arzal's combat drones are airborne. They're targeting female bioluminescent signatures. A rhythmic humming drew Joshua's attention to K-Thax's approaching form. The commander's cybernetic enhancements pulsed with a familiar bioorganic glow, the distinctive energy signature of refined night bloom essence. Henderson's operation extends off-world, Joshua transmitted to Wang. They're weaponizing night bloom derivatives for augmentation systems. Seismic sensors registered cascading tunnel collapses moving toward the facility's foundation. Joshua checked the structural integrity readouts, watching support systems fail in sequence. They had hours at most before the entire complex became unstable. Through his tactical display, Joshua tracked multiple crisis points converging Kayvon fleeing with irreplaceable data, captured females facing lethal neurotoxin exposure, and Arzal's drones hunting survivors along evacuation routes. Behind him, K-Thax's enhanced forces pressed forward, their night bloomport systems cutting through standard defenses. The facility groaned as another tunnel collapsed, sending vibrations through the reinforced walls. Joshua accessed the updated structural analysis, identifying critical junctions they needed to hold. He turned toward the sound of approaching steel claw troops, their augmented armor gleaming under the emergency lights. Joshua activated his tactical overlay, splitting his team's deployment markers into two groups. Alpha Units 3 through 6, secure neurotoxin controls. Everyone else, form up on me. Through his enhanced optics, he tracked K-Thax's distinctive biosignature, the cybernetic commander's systems pulsed with an unnatural purple glow. The night bloom essence powering their augmentations created distinct thermal patterns. SREN, Joshua transmitted. Analyze these energy signatures. Their enhancements are plant-based. The medical officer's reply came swiftly. Confirmed. Uploading modified Dawn shard concentration ratios to your fabrication units. A new voice cut through their tactical channel. Security Chief MREC here. Sending facility schematics now. A detailed structural map materialized on Joshua's display. My engineering teams are standing by to reinforce critical support points. Accepted, Joshua responded, nodding the chief's Yadarin markings pulsing with controlled anger. Direct your teams to coordinate with Gamma Squad. Dr. Martinez's voice carried urgency. Joshua, the mining equipment it's using the same night bloom power cells as K-Thax's forces. If we trigger a power surge through the main grid, we disable both threats, Joshua finished. T-Lock, begin power redistribution calculations. The facility's emergency lighting flickered as Elder Sira and Viria linked their bioluminescent patterns, creating complex geometric formations. The females can store genetic data, Sira transmitted. We're beginning emergency preservation protocols. Joshua's tactical display registered multiple breaches as K-Thax's forces advanced. He directed his assault team into defensive positions, deploying modified Dawn shard dispensers. The concentrated pollen clouds descended on the enhanced troops, disrupting their cybernetic systems. Structural breach in Sector 12, MREC reported. My teams are reinforcing with fungal supports. Kayvon's voice echoed through the facility speakers. Attention all units. Access to deep storage Vault Gamma has been authorized. Release final contingency measures. Elder Sira's markings flashed with alarm. The experimental bioweapon he's going to destroy the entire fungal network. Joshua's sensors detected new movement at the perimeter. Special Containment Division units approaching, Wang transmitted. Commander Henderson is establishing a quarantine zone. Joshua, T-Lock called out. The gas pocket explosion it exposed an old maintenance shaft. Direct route to environmental controls, but the fungal defenses are growing rapidly. Through his tactical feed, Joshua watched K-Thax's troops displaying increasing resistance to the Dawn shard pollen. Their cybernetic systems adapted, integrating more deeply with the night bloom essence powering them. SREN, analyze their adaptation rate, Joshua ordered, leading his team toward the exposed maintenance shaft. Integration patterns suggest the process might be reversible, SREN responded. But we'd need Kayvon's original research data. Seismic sensors pulsed as Kayvon's mining equipment activated beneath the facility. Joshua coordinated through his tactical network. Beta Team, begin fungal node decontamination. Gamma Team, expand defensive coverage along evacuation routes. Alpha Team, prepare for environmental control breach. The maintenance shaft entrance gaped ahead, twisted metal framework exposed by the earlier explosion. Fungal growth patterns spread across the walls in fractal patterns, consuming structural materials as they advanced. Movement detected below the foundation level, T-Lock reported. Kayvon's forces are accessing an unmapped chamber. Joshua checked his tactical display one final time, confirming team positions. The modified Dawn Shard dispensers hummed as they generated fresh pollen clouds. Through the growing fungal barrier, environmental controls reinforced doors waited. His enhanced audio sensors picked up K-Thax's troops approaching from multiple vectors, their cybernetic systems humming with corrupted night bloom energy. Behind him, the preservation teams worked to transfer critical genetic data into living carriers, while MREX engineers raced to stabilize the collapsing structure. Teams in position, Joshua transmitted. Begin synchronized operation. Begin synchronized breach, Joshua transmitted, leading his team through the maintenance shaft entrance. The twisted metal framework groaned as they advanced past the fungal growth patterns. T-Lock sensors pinged with new data. Massive biological signature detected below foundation level. Sir, it's unlike anything in our databases. The team descended through the exposed shaft, Dawn Shard dispensers humming. Joshua's enhanced optics penetrated the darkness, revealing an enormous chamber carved into the bedrock. At its center stood a towering bioluminescent form, the night bloom mother plant. Its massive trunk pulsed with complex patterns, each ripple cascading through thousands of interconnected branches. Kayvon's forces breached the outer security ring, Security Chief Emrek transmitted. They're using modified HDC mining equipment. The chamber trembled as drilling equipment tore through the remaining barriers. The mother plant's patterns flickered erratically in response to the vibrations. Rerouting auxiliary power to environmental stabilizers, Joshua ordered, splitting his team to defensive positions. Emrek, I need those containment fields at maximum strength. Dr. Martinez's voice carried over the tactical network. The mother plant is showing severe stress responses, multiple root samples already extracted. If we don't stabilize it soon, a figure emerged from behind the plant's massive trunk, an older male with researcher markings. I am Research Director P. Val, he transmitted, hands raised. Kayvon's true plan is worse than we imagined. He's developing a targeted toxin from the root system, engineered specifically to attack female biological markers. Through his tactical display, Joshua tracked K-Thax's forces converging on their position. Their cybernetic systems pulsed with increasingly unstable energy signatures. Chief Medical Officer S-Ren here, the transmission cut through. Commander K-Thax's enhanced troops are reaching critical instability. The corrupted night bloom essence is degrading rapidly. Explosions rocked the facility's upper levels. Commander Henderson's voice joined the tactical network. Special Containment Division engaged with hostile forces, Black Thorn Collective Mercenaries, led by Marcus Kane. They're using advanced stealth tech to bypass our perimeter. Master Gardener Elara's markings flashed urgent patterns. The fungal defense network is growing out of control in contaminated sectors. Evacuation routes are being compromised. She pressed her hands against a pulsing fungal node. I can attempt direct neural interface through my patterns. It may buy us time. Understood, Joshua responded. T-Lock, status on those structural scans. Mapping complete. The mining operation created multiple unstable cavities. Strategic collapse could isolate this chamber, but will need precise demolition placement. Joshua's sensors detected Black Thorn operatives moving through stealth fields above. Their shimmer-cloaked forms rippled as they deployed along the chamber's upper galleries. Behind them, Kayvon's forces pressed forward with mining equipment, while Kathax's unstable troops advanced from multiple vectors. An alert flashed across Joshua's tactical display, automated warning signals broadcasting from Kayvon's lab indicated imminent bioweapon containment failure. Dr. Martinez, Joshua transmitted while deploying modified research drones. Begin cavity mapping for controlled demolition. Elder Sira, coordinate with Viria's teams to stabilize critical fungal nodes. He turned to face the approaching Steel Claw forces. All combat units, prepare for multivector engagement. We hold this chamber at all costs. The mother plant's bioluminescence pulsed with increasing distress as mining vibrations intensified. Above them, Blackthorn operatives disabled their stealth fields, weapon systems charging. Kathax's troops pressed forward, their cybernetic implants glowing with unstable purple energy, while toxic bioresidue began leaking from their degrading systems. Joshua's tactical display lit up with multiple threat indicators as the chamber's environment shifted dangerously out of balance. Through the growing chaos, Elara's neural connection with the fungal network pulsed with desperate intensity as she fought to regain control of the defense system. Time was running out. Multiple containment failures detected in Kayvon's laboratory. Esren's voice cut through the tactical channel. Bioweapon breach imminent. Joshua accessed the facility's power distribution grid through his neural interface. The Steel Claw Brigade's enhanced troops drew massive energy spikes, destabilizing crucial systems. T-Lock, initiate cavity mapping. Dr. Martinez, Esren form up on me. We're breaching the lab. Acknowledged, Elder Sira transmitted. Commander Henderson's units will secure the mother plant chamber. Viria, strengthen the defensive perimeter. The maintenance shaft trembled as Joshua led his specialized team toward the laboratory complex. Through his enhanced optics, he tracked power fluctuations spreading through the facility's grid like a virus. Engineering teams report critical instability in the power core's cooling system, MREC transmitted. The cavity network is compromising primary foundation supports. Joshua's tactical display highlighted multiple stasis pods as they entered Kayvon's laboratory. Inside each crystalline chamber, a female elder floated in suspended animation. His sensors identified senior botanist Erin among them, her botanical markings dulled by prolonged stasis. Found the source of the containment breach, Dr. Martinez transmitted, examining the bioweapons housing. The system's been rigged to fail. Kayvon planned this. The mother plant's chamber resonated with new vibrations. Joshua, Elara's voice carried strain from maintaining the neural link. The defense network it's changing. The mother plant's releasing specialized spores. Through the tactical feed, Joshua watched Blackthorn operatives materialize as their stealth systems failed. The spores created interference patterns that rendered their cloaking technology useless. Seismic sensors detecting multiple sonic drilling vehicles, T-Lock reported. Blackthorn's secondary force approaching from Vector 7. A priority alert flashed across Joshua's display. Kathax's enhanced troops collapsed simultaneously, their cybernetic systems cascading into failure. Purple bioluminescence leaked from their neural ports as the corrupted night bloom essence broke down. The stasis pods, Esren transmitted. We can adapt their containment fields to stabilize the affected soldiers, but we need to gather them quickly. Sir, Wang's voice carried urgency. Trade Commissioner Henderson's financial records confirm Blackthorn funding. Special Containment Division is establishing full quarantine protocols. Research Director Pival interfaced with the laboratory systems. The bioweapon targets female genetic markers, specifically those controlling botanical network integration. Kayvon designed it to sever their connection permanently. Joshua's team worked to stabilize the weapon's containment while the facility's power core alerts intensified. Energy levels fluctuated dangerously as systems competed for failing resources. T-lock, status on those demolition calculations. Charges placed here and here, T-lock highlighted positions on Joshua's tactical display, will trigger controlled collapses. We conceal Blackthorn's entry points and stabilize the power core's foundation simultaneously. The laboratory's emergency lighting flickered as another power surge rippled through the grid. Joshua accessed the core's diagnostic feed, watching critical systems approach failure thresholds. They needed to choose maintain power to essential operations or initiate emergency shutdown. Through his tactical network, Joshua tracked multiple crises converging. Kathax's troops requiring immediate stasis containment, the bioweapons failing systems, approaching sonic drilling vehicles, and the facility's deteriorating power grid. The mother plant's defensive spores spread through ventilation systems, altering the environment in unpredictable ways. Commander Henderson's units engaged with Blackthorn forces in Sector 9, Elder Sira reported. The fungal reinforcement is holding, but those sonic drills will tear through it. Joshua split his tactical display between power distribution diagrams and structural analysis feeds. The facility's systems pulsed with warning indicators as they approached critical decision points. Behind him, Esren prepared the modified stasis fields while Dr. Martinez worked to neutralize Kayvon's bioweapon. The chamber shuddered as the first sonic drill impacts reached the outer barriers. Through the growing chaos, Joshua tracked multiple threats converging on their position, while the power core's stability continued to deteriorate. Joshua's tactical systems flashed red as the power core's diagnostic readings spiked into critical ranges. He accessed the facility's master control systems through his neural interface, initiating an emergency partial shutdown sequence. MREC, reroute all backup generators to life support and containment fields, Joshua transmitted. We're shutting down non-essential systems. The laboratory's lights dimmed as power redirected through emergency circuits. Dr. Martinez bent over a microscope, examining a crystalline formation growing along one of the power conduits. These defensive spores they're forming conductive structures, she said, adjusting the magnification. The mother plant is actually strengthening our remaining power grid. A soft thud from above drew their weapons up. A ventilation grate shifted, and a young female scientist dropped into the laboratory. Her research markings identified her as Kmira. I documented everything, she said, producing a data crystal. Kayvon's personal logs, experiment records, everything. Joshua's tactical display updated as she transferred the files. The bioweapon delivery system requires a catalyst-corrupted night bloom essence, the same substance powering Kathax's troops, Esren noted, examining the stasis pod controls. We can modify these pods to extract and contain the unstable essence. They moved quickly, adapting the containment fields. Kathax was first, his cybernetic implants pulsing with purple light as they connected him to the modified pod. The corrupted essence drew out of his neural ports in luminescent streams. Neural patterns normalizing, Esren reported. The separation process is working. The facility shuddered as T-Lock's demolition charges detonated in sequence. Through his tactical feed, Joshua watched the Blackthorn access tunnels collapse. Unexpected alerts flashed across his display, the fungal network responding to the vibrations with explosive growth. LRA, status of the defense network. The fungal growth is stabilizing the structure, she transmitted, her neural connection to the network pulsing with data. Natural support columns are forming in the compromised sections. Commander Henderson's voice cut through. Kane's forces have deployed sonic mining equipment near the mother plant. They're attempting to breach the final barriers. The maintenance shaft, Elder Sira transmitted. There are ancient filtration systems designed for geological events. We can shield the chamber. Joshua's tactical display updated as PVAL accessed the facility's sensor archives. Kayvon transferred research data to an orbital facility, Trade Commissioner Henderson's private station. Special Containment Division implementing orbital blockade now, Wang confirmed. Dr. Martinez called them to a sealed section of the laboratory. Inside, experimental stasis units housed twisted night bloom specimens hybrids adapted to extreme conditions. These plants show heavy metal resistance, she said, examining their genetic profiles. We could use them to protect the remaining sanctuaries. Warning indicators flashed across Joshua's display as automated mining drones breached the sealed tunnels. Their sonic drills cut through rock and fungal barriers with mechanical precision. New energy signature detected, MREC transmitted. Geothermal tap modifications. Kayvon installed failsafes. If triggered, superheated steam will flood the entire tunnel network. Joshua split his team's focus between multiple crisis points. Stabilizing Kathax's troops, protecting the mother plant chamber, and containing the automated mining drones. Through his tactical display, he tracked the spreading fungal growth as it formed new structural supports throughout the facility's lower levels. The modified stasis pods hummed as they processed more steel claw soldiers, drawing out the corrupted essence that threatened both their lives and the facility's security. Each successful extraction brought them closer to preventing the bioweapons activation while saving the enhanced warriors. Through the spreading chaos, Joshua accessed the facility's remaining systems, coordinating between teams as they fought to maintain control of the rapidly evolving situation. Above them, sonic drills continued their relentless advance, while fungal supports raced to reinforce the chamber's integrity. Security, Chief Emrek's voice cut through the tactical channel with fresh urgency. "Sir, I've identified Kayvon's failsafe mechanism. 3 separate control nodes manage the geothermal steam vents. We'll need simultaneous access to bypass the Deadman switch." Engineering specialist Artan emerged from a maintenance tunnel, his uniform covered in thermal insulation residue. "Those vents are linked to cooling systems protecting our medical night bloom variants. We lose those, we lose our best bargaining chip with the Trade Federation." Joshua's tactical display updated with the control node locations, each blinking red in different facility sectors. Through his neural interface, he monitored the steel claw soldiers' vital signs as SREN's modified stasis pods continued extracting corrupted essence from their systems. "Doctor." Martinez lifted her eyes from the hybrid night bloom analysis station. "These specimens, their evolution rate is unprecedented. The pollen characteristics." She transferred the data to Joshua's display. When combined with mother plant samples, it could neutralize the corruption while preserving cybernetic functionality. The facility shuddered. Through the tactical feed, Joshua watched another section of fungal defense network collapse under sonic assault. Elara's neural connection pulsed with increased activity. "The mother plant is showing us the way," she transmitted. "These reinforced passages, they form a natural evacuation network, but we'll need to clear multiple collapse points." T-Lock's analysis flashed across the shared tactical display. The sonic signatures match Henderson's classified weapons program, military-grade resonators, banned in 3 sectors. Commander Sarah Henderson accessed the data through her command link. "Confirmed. I'm requesting Special Containment Division counter-resonance units. We can shut down those drills without compromising structural integrity." Kmira's fingers flew across the laboratory's data terminal. Kayvon's orbital facility, he stored genetic backups there. The female elder's biological markers, their ecosystem integration data. "Wang here. Special Containment orbital units moving to intercept. Planning extraction now." Warning indicators flared across Joshua's display as power fluctuations intensified. The hybrid night bloom's accelerated growth drew massive energy through backup systems. He accessed the facility's master controls, implementing emergency power rotation protocols. P-Val examined crystalline formations spreading along the power conduits. The defensive spores they're forming natural insulators. We can stabilize the grid, but it requires exposing the mother plant chamber to energy discharge. Time window is closing, Elder Sira transmitted. Structural integrity projected to reach critical threshold in 27 minutes. Through his tactical network, Joshua tracked multiple threats converging. The modified stasis pods hummed as they processed another wave of steel claw troops. K-Thax, his neural ports no longer leaking purple luminescence, approached the command station. "There's more," he said, his voice carrying residual static from damaged vocal systems. Kayvon built a second facility, polar ice caps, another weapons lab. Long-range sensors triggered new alerts. Joshua's tactical display highlighted multiple black thorn transport signatures entering atmosphere. Team assignments, Joshua transmitted across the command channel. MREC, coordinate counter-resonance deployment with Henderson's units. T-Lock, establish power shunts for the spore barrier. Martinez, begin hybrid pollen synthesis. We breach those control nodes in 15 minutes. The modified stasis pods cycled down as the last steel claw soldiers' corrupted essence separated into containment. Through the spreading chaos, Joshua watched the mother plant's bioluminescence pulse in sophisticated patterns, while Elara's neural connection translated its complex defensive responses. The facility's remaining systems synchronized under Joshua's command interface as they prepared to execute multiple simultaneous operations. Above them, sonic drills continued their advance while blackthorn reinforcements descended through the atmosphere. Behind him, K-Thax's recovered troops checked their recalibrated cybernetic systems, preparing to defend their position against Kane's approaching forces. Forces descended. Joshua accessed the facility's auxiliary command protocols, establishing a secure operations center within a reinforced maintenance junction. The fungal reinforced walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as his team deployed mobile command stations. "Movement in Maintenance Shaft 7, MREC transmitted. A figure emerged from the shadows, hands raised. Base Commander Elter's security credentials flashed across Joshua's tactical display. "The observation post survived initial takeover," Elter said, connecting a data core to the nearest terminal. Kayvon's research logs. His polar facility houses prototype breeding chambers. Dr. Martinez looked up from her workstation, where purple essence swirled in separation tubes. K-Thax's neural patterns are stabilizing. The hybrid pollen treatment is working. K-Thax's cybernetic ports now glowed with steady blue light as he studied tactical displays. Blackthorn maintains 3 heavy mining vessels in high orbit, plasma cutting equipment. T-Lock's fingers flew across engineering controls. These plasma signatures, they match our power grid frequency. We could overload the Deadman switches. The facility shuddered as the first mining vessel breached atmosphere. Through his tactical feed, Joshua watched plasma cutters deploy from specialized extraction pods. Elara's neural connection pulsed with increased data flow. "The defense network is evolving," she transmitted. "Crystalline structures forming in response to sonic vibrations." Agent Wang's orbital feed highlighted multiple transport signatures around Henderson Station. Trade Commissioner preparing evacuation, moving to intercept. P-Val transferred analysis results to the main display. Kayvon's polar breeding chambers use modified stasis tech. Shutting down one affects both systems. The mother plant's chamber sensors flashed warning indicators. Elder Sira studied root system data as previously dormant sections activated. Ancient defense protocol initiating. The plant seeks connection with planetary fungal networks. Joshua split his tactical display between 4 operational zones. T-Lock and MREC established power distribution nodes around the facility's perimeter doctor. Martinez and Esren expanded hybrid pollen production, while monitoring steel claw recovery. Elter and Kathax coordinated defense teams at critical junctions. Elder Sira and Elara monitored. Expanding root networks, depenetrating vibrations rippled through the facility's foundation. Joshua's seismic sensors detected massive drilling equipment activating at the polar site. The mother plant's root system pushed through containment barriers, interacting with hybrid specimens. New genetic sequences appeared on research screens as unprecedented mutations began. Polar drilling threatens continental stability, P-Val reported, examining geological data. Ancient botanical repository detected below ice layer. The first plasma cutter breached outer defenses. Joshua tracked its signature through power distribution systems as T-Lock prepared energy redirection protocols. Through crystallinar rainforest tunnels, evacuating females gathered in vibration-dampened safe zones. Kathax accessed Blackthorn tactical frequencies through recovered cybernetic systems. Kane's forces deploying in standard assault pattern, targeting primary support structures. Hybrid treatment synthesis at 60%, Dr. Martinez transmitted. Steel claw neural integration holding stable. Elara's connection to the mother plant intensified. Root systems expanded through newly formed crystalline tunnels as ancient biological protocols activated. Joshua monitored mutation rates as hybrid specimens responded to mother plant contact. The facility's power grid pulsed with redirected plasma energy as T-Lock implemented containment node overrides. Above them, Commander Henderson's orbital units maintained quarantine positions, while Wang's Special Containment Division vessels moved to intercept escaping transports. Seismic instability increasing, P-Val warned. Polar drilling affects all remaining sanctuaries. Joshua integrated real-time data from multiple sources: hybrid mutation rates, plasma cutter positions, root system expansion, and polar drilling frequencies. The mother plant's defensive responses accelerated as previously dormant genetic sequences activated. Base Commander Elter coordinated defense teams through crystallinar rainforest corridors, while Kathax's recovered forces established containment positions. The facility's modified systems hummed with redirected energy as Joshua's team worked to prevent both immediate crisis and looming ecological collapse. Through his tactical display, Joshua tracked the spreading chaos as multiple threats converged. Above them, Blackthorn mining vessels positioned for another assault, while below, ancient botanical systems awakened to unknown purpose. Joshua's tactical display flared with new alerts as the mother plant's expanding root system breached the hybrid specimen containment areas. Through observation windows, crystalline formations emerged from mutated night bloom specimens, their structures pulsing with channeled geothermal energy. Dr. Martinez pressed her hand against the reinforced glass. These crystal formations, they're integrating with the power grid architecture. She transferred sensor data to Joshua's neural interface. The mutation rate suggests deliberate adaptation. The facility's lights flickered as T-Lock's engineering team modified captured plasma cutters. Energy cascaded through power distribution nodes, overloading the first Deadman switch control center. Warning klaxons blared as experimental night bloom specimens released clouds of metallic gray spores into the affected sectors. Corrosive breach in sectors 7 through 12, P-Val transmitted. Non-biological materials showing rapid degradation. Through security feeds, Joshua watched the spores eat through metal support struts and synthetic barrier walls. Kathax approached the command station, his recovered cybernetic systems now fully operational. The polar facility's defense grid uses experimental cryotechnology, he said, accessing Blackthorn tactical databases through his neural ports. Flash freeze protocols activate within 2–3 seconds of unauthorized biological contact. Security Chief Emrek's voice cut through the tactical channel. Thermal regulation systems show consistent microfluctuations. The crystalline night blooms could exploit these patterns. A maintenance hatch cycled open, revealing a dust-covered figure in engineering whites. Director HVAL, Mining Operations, he transmitted, authorization codes flashing across Joshua's display. Kayvon's deep drilling operation, it's tapped into dormant volcanic networks beneath the ice cap. Base Commander Eltur's security teams repositioned research equipment around the mother plant chamber, projecting false thermal signatures. Blackthorn targeting systems struggled to acquire locks until sleek combat drones descended through breach points, their sensors adapting to the deception. Multiple pattern recognition platforms detected, Eltur transmitted, relocating defensive positions. PVAL's analysis of the ancient botanical repository appeared on shared displays. Cold-adapted night bloom variants preserved beneath the ice sheet. Kayvon selected the polar site specifically to access these specimens. Through orbital feeds, Joshua watched mining corporation vessels challenge Wang's quarantine perimeter. Trade Commissioner Henderson's voice crackled through encrypted channels. The fungal defense network threatens billions in mineral assets. Corporate intervention is imminent. Elara's neural connection to the mother plant intensified. It seeks connection with the ancient specimens, a stabilizing link between facilities. Her eyes widened. But Kayvon's drilling operation approaches the repository, if corrupted essence reaches those variants first. Seismic sensors detected increasing tremors as magma chambers breached beneath the ice. Joshua split his tactical display between facility defense and polar intervention planning. The crystalline night blooms continued their rapid evolution, forming natural energy conduits through newly reinforced corridors. Establishing power shunts through crystal matrices, T-Lock transmitted. Preparing for simultaneous node neutralization. Multiple Blackthorn dropships breached atmosphere as Joshua coordinated his team's parallel operations. They would have to secure both facilities while preventing ecological collapse. Through spreading spore clouds and plasma discharges, the mother plant's defensive protocols continued to adapt, its ancient systems awakening to counter technological threats with biological ingenuity. K-Thax's recovered forces moved into position around critical junctions, while Martinez's hybrid pollen treatment continued stabilizing corrupted systems. Above them, Henderson's orbital units maintained their quarantine formation as volcanic instability increased beneath the polar ice. Joshua's tactical display highlighted multiple thermal anomalies as magma chambers expanded beneath the polar facility. He tracked energy signatures through the crystalline formations, noting their natural conductivity patterns. These crystal structures, T-Lock said, examining sensor data. They're forming geometric patterns consistent with ancient Yadaran power distribution networks. A sealed maintenance pod cycled open near the geothermal monitoring station. A dust-covered female engineer emerged, her facility credentials identifying her as VDAR Thermal Systems Specialist. The volcanic vent network, she transmitted, connecting her data core to the nearest terminal. Kayvon's drilling created interconnected magma chambers, but the polar facility's climate control systems, we can use them. Dr. Martinez's voice cut through the tactical channel. Hybrid treatment protocol complete. Steel claw neural patterns fully stabilized. K-Thax flexed his cybernetic arms, status indicators glowing steady blue. His recovered warriors took defensive positions around critical junctions as Blackthorn mining drones probed the facility's outer barriers. Multiple automated units detected, Eltur transmitted. Non-standard weapons loadout. Through security feeds, Joshua watched the drones release metallic gray clouds into ventilation shafts. Elara's eyes widened as corrupted spores infiltrated the atmospheric processors. Neural connection compromised, she transmitted, severing her link to the fungal network. Basic defense protocols remain active. Elder Sira studied the mother plant's expanding root system. These crystalline formations, they're not random growth. The plant is creating a biological backup repository. Research assistant K-Mira transferred analysis data to shared displays. Genetic preservation protocols detected. Requires stable environmental conditions in both facilities. Joshua accessed T-Lock's power distribution schematics. The crystalline night blooms had formed natural energy conduits throughout the facility's reinforced corridors. These living circuits could channel power between facilities, bypassing compromised systems. Deploying modified Dawn Shard pollen, Dr. Martinez transmitted. The treatment dispersed through crystalline tunnels, neutralizing Kane's corrupted spores. Security Chief MREC's tactical feed highlighted multiple explosive signatures. Charges detected throughout polar facility support structures. K-Von implemented scorched earth protocols. Volcanic instability increasing, Vidar warned, examining thermal readouts. Primary magma chamber approaching critical pressure. Above them, orbital feeds showed Henderson's automated cargo vessels moving into position around Yadira Prime. Agent Wang's Special Containment Division ships maintained their defensive formation, weapons systems charged. Joshua initiated his three-phase operation plan. K-Thax's Steel Claw warriors secured the remaining Deadman switch nodes while modified Dawn Shard pollen circulated through the crystal network. Vidar accessed thermal regulation systems, establishing precise temperature control protocols between facilities. The mother plant's backup process intensified. Power fluctuations cascaded through remaining systems as vital energy redirected to the growing crystalline repository. Security Chief MREC activated emergency protocols, sealing non-essential corridors. Evacuation routes compromised in sectors 3 through 9, he transmitted, implementing alternate escape paths through maintenance tunnels. P-Val's analysis of the ancient repository appeared on tactical displays. Cold-adapted night bloom variants show unique genetic markers. They could stabilize both the volcanic network and our compromised systems. Through facility sensors, Joshua tracked the spreading crystalline growths as they formed living circuitry between vital systems. The Steel Claw Brigade engaged Blackthorn mining drones, their enhanced capabilities proving decisive in close-quarters combat. Thermal regulation network online, Vidar transmitted, preparing to access climate control systems at polar facility. The mother plant's root system pushed deeper into crystalline chambers as its backup process continued. Power systems strained under the increased load, while emergency protocols redirected essential resources. Above them, Wang's orbital defense grid maintained position against Henderson's automated mining fleet as diplomatic tensions escalated. Joshua monitored multiple operational zones as his team executed their coordinated response. The volcanic vent network's increasing instability demanded immediate action, yet accessing the ancient repository required precise timing and careful manipulation of K-Von's compromised drilling systems. Through crystal reinforced corridors, facility defenders prepared for Kane's next assault, while the mother plant continued its desperate attempt to preserve its genetic legacy. Time grew short as magma chambers expanded beneath the polar ice cap, threatening both facilities with imminent destruction. Joshua activated emergency protocols as power fluctuations rippled through the facility's neural network. The mother plant's backup process drew vital energy from life support systems, causing atmospheric processors to falter. Implementing power cycling sequence, Security Chief MREC transmitted. His hands moved across the control interface as engineering specialist Artan established dedicated channels through the crystalline formations. The living circuitry pulsed with redirected energy. Life support stabilizing at 60% capacity, Artan confirmed. Crystal conduits maintaining power flow to critical systems. A figure emerged from the maintenance shaft, tools hanging from a specialized harness. JLAR demolitions, he transmitted, connecting to the tactical network. His eyes narrowed as he examined structural data. Kayvon's charges their link to seismic triggers. One significant tremor could collapse both facilities. Dr. Martinez studied sensor readings from the crystalline night blooms. These formations channel thermal energy naturally. She transferred data to T-Lock's engineering station. We can redirect excess heat through the maintenance tunnels. Coordinating with thermal systems, Vidar responded, her fingers dancing across climate control interfaces. Crystal saturation at 40%. Maintaining safe operational threshold. Security feeds showed Kane's iceberg equipment breaching the polar facility's outer barriers. Massive drills carved through ancient ice as Kathax led his recovered steel claw warriors through reinforced access tunnels. Strike team advancing, Kathax transmitted. His enhanced systems compensated for the extreme cold as automated defenses tracked their movement. Securing repository access points. P-Val and K-Mira's analysis flashed across shared displays. The cold-adapted specimens created natural preservation chambers, K-Mira reported. Ice formations integrated with night bloom biology. Above them, Henderson's cargo vessels released clouds of mining probes. Agent Wang's voice cut through tactical channels. Special containment platforms engaging defensive formation delta. Commander Sarah Henderson coordinated orbital screen positions as Elter's ground teams activated hardened surface installations. Elder Sira traced crystalline patterns through observation windows. The root system forms evacuation routes. She highlighted tunnel networks intersecting with unstable magma chambers. Vidar, we need precise thermal mapping. Uploading temperature gradients, Vidar responded. Tracking magma flow patterns through sensor grid. Chief Medical Officer Esren examined steel claw neural patterns. Cybernetic systems showing unexpected compatibility with crystal matrices. He transferred medical data to Joshua's tactical display. Their enhanced neural architecture can interface directly with the Night Bloom network. Kathax accessed the crystal interface through his recovered systems. Power distribution stabilized as organic and mechanical processes synchronized. Emergency lighting steadied throughout both facilities. Seismic alerts flashed as energy signatures surged from the ancient repository. Ice formations expanded through drilling zones, encasing Kane's equipment in crystalline structures. Biological defense mechanisms activating, P-Val transmitted. Cold-adapted variants responding to repository breach. Trade Commissioner Henderson's vessels initiated atmospheric entry burns, their heat signatures blazing across tactical displays. Commander Sarah Henderson's voice crackled through command channels. Unauthorized descent detected. Containment platforms tracking multiple targets. Joshua coordinated evacuation preparations as ice formations threatened critical systems. The mother plant's backup process continued through stabilized power networks, while Kathax's neural connection maintained precise control over facility resources. Treated steel claw warriors secured priority evacuation routes as crystalline defenses expanded through both facilities. Through their enhanced interface capabilities, the ancient Night Bloom's preservation protocols activated, creating secure biological storage chambers for essential genetic samples. T-Lock's engineering team monitored crystal saturation levels, while Vidar's thermal regulation systems prevented structural damage from magma chamber expansion. Above them, orbital platforms tracked Henderson's descending vessels as surface teams prepared for potential debris impacts. A figure in frost-covered protective gear emerged from a maintenance shaft, near the ice formation monitoring station. Joshua's tactical display identified him as K-Tar, ice mining specialist from the original polar exploration teams. These crystalline patterns, K-Tar transmitted, examining the expanding ice structures encasing Kayvon's drilling equipment. They match night bloom formations precisely. The ancient repository's defense system uses specialized ice formation techniques. Security Chief MREC overlaid structural analysis data across shared displays. Confirmed. Crystal lattice structures show identical molecular arrangements. The defensive ice integrates seamlessly with hybrid night bloom matrices. K-Tar connected his specialized thermal equipment to nearby monitoring stations. We can redirect these ice formations using modified temperature regulation protocols. Protect our evacuation routes while letting the defensive ice neutralize Kayvon's drilling operation. Atmospheric sensors flashed red as Trade Commissioner Henderson's vessels initiated their final descent. Electromagnetic interference cascaded through crystalline corridors, disrupting power distribution networks. Crystal resonance patterns destabilizing, T-Lock transmitted, his fingers moving across engineering interfaces. Entry burn signatures creating harmful feedback loops in biological circuits. PVAL accessed sealed research archives as K-Mira decrypted Kayvon's drilling logs. Located primary operational protocols, K-Mira transmitted. Kayvon targeted specific mineral deposits geothermally active compounds that react with night bloom biology. These minerals enhance bioweapon effectiveness, PVAL added. Full exposure would permanently alter Yadira Prime's ecosystem. K-Thax positioned his steel claw warriors around thermal regulation nodes, their cybernetic systems interfacing directly with crystalline networks. Energy readouts stabilized as they established precise temperature control protocols. Maintaining thermal balance, K-Thax transmitted. Magma pressure steady. Ice formation rates nominal. His status indicators flickered as orbital interference increased. Chief Medical Officer Esren monitored brigade neural patterns. Cybernetic adaptation increasing. Enhanced interface capabilities developing naturally. He transferred medical data through secured channels. Warning connection strength approaching critical threshold. Base Commander Elter coordinated with Commander Sarah Henderson's orbital platforms. Establishing debris intercept grid, Elter transmitted. Tracking multiple atmospheric entry trajectories. The defense screen's electromagnetic field wrapped around crystalline corridors. Power fluctuations decreased as the protective barrier stabilized biological circuits. Elder Sira and Elara guided the mother plant's root system through expanding ice formations. Vidar monitored temperature gradients as organic tendrils merged with crystalline structures. Hybrid matrix accepting genetic data transfer, Vidar reported. Temperature variance within safe parameters. Hull breach warnings flashed across tactical displays. Henderson's vessels shed burning debris as structural integrity failed. Surface tracking systems projected impact zones directly above critical installations. Joshua accessed facility-wide communications as seismic alerts intensified. Kayvon's remaining drill platforms vibrated at increasing frequencies, creating harmonic resonance patterns through ice and crystal formations. Preservation chambers showing structural stress, K-Mira transmitted. Crystal integrity declining. K-Tar examined ice formation data through specialized sensors. The defensive ice, it's becoming brittle. Harmonic frequencies match crystal breakdown patterns. K-Thax's warriors maintained their neural connection to thermal regulation nodes as power systems fluctuated. Their enhanced integration provided precise control, but left them vulnerable to growing interference patterns. Establishing secondary containment protocols, Security Chief MREC transmitted, coordinating with K-Tar's ice formation systems. Emergency bulkheads sealed as crystalline structures vibrated under increasing stress. Joshua tracked multiple threat vectors across tactical displays as Henderson's failing vessels descended through defensive screens. Below them, Kayvon's drilling equipment continued generating destructive harmonics while magma chambers expanded beneath weakening ice formations. Joshua's tactical display flashed red as Henderson's vessels broke apart, their superstructures failing under atmospheric stress. Burning fragments scattered across predicted impact vectors, threatening critical surface installations. 3 major debris clusters identified, MREC transmitted, coordinating with orbital defense platforms. Calculating terminal trajectories. TLOC's engineering feeds highlighted structural vulnerabilities across both facilities. The crystalline network it's responding to the debris threat. Look at these growth patterns. Through observation windows, emergency lighting illuminated strange transformations as night bloom formations twisted into new configurations. Crystal structures elongated and thickened, creating reinforced archways above critical systems. The hybrid matrices are adapting, Elder Sira noted, studying the organic-crystalline interface. We can guide these formations, create shelter zones. Deep beneath them, Kayvon's drilling equipment generated waves of destructive resonance. Ice formations cracked and shifted as harmonic frequencies penetrated deeper layers. Katar's eyes widened as he examined vibration data. These patterns they match the Sarxus colony collapse, Kayvon's using band frequency modulators. Configuring thermal dampeners, Artan responded, fingers dancing across engineering interfaces. If we establish counter-resonance through the regulation grid, a sealed door cycled open, revealing a frost-covered figure in environmental gear. Geological Survey Chief Enver, she transmitted, connecting to the tactical network. I have critical data about those mineral deposits. Enver transferred geological surveys to shared displays. These formations regulate planetary temperature naturally. They're remnants of ancient terraforming systems designed to work with botanical enhancement protocols. P-Val examined mineral composition data. The reactive properties. K-Mira, look at these molecular patterns. They match mother plant DNA sequences. We could use controlled exposure to enhance the backup process, K-Mira suggested. Create a more resilient preservation matrix. K-Thax's enhanced sensors detected movement near the drilling zone. Blackthorn forces withdrawing, converging on. Thermal anomaly detected. Infrared scans revealed a concealed landing pad beneath the ice. A camouflaged shuttle waited there, specialized extraction equipment visible through its cargo doors. Kane means to steal both specimens and minerals, Joshua transmitted. Secure that location. The mother plant's root system pulsed with bioluminescent energy as ice formations mutated around it. Crystal structures flowed like liquid, redirecting thermal energy through reinforced corridors. The hybrid network is becoming defensive, Elara observed. We must prevent it from consuming essential systems. Vidar monitored temperature gradients. JLAR, we can use this. Reconfigure thermal regulators to channel both magma pressure and crystal growth. Establishing controlled ice barriers now, JLAR confirmed. Neutralizing Kayvon's charges sequentially. Agent Wang's voice cut through command channels, using interference patterns from Henderson's vessels to disrupt mining operations. Commander Henderson, adjusting orbital screen formation. SREN's medical alerts flashed urgent warnings. Steel claw neural patterns showing biological mutation. The crystalline exposure is altering their cybernetic systems. K-Thax's warriors maintained their positions despite visible discomfort. Their neural interfaces flickered as hybrid formations pulsed with strange energy. Initiating emergency medical protocols, SREN transmitted. Bridge teams, prepare for warrior extraction on my mark. Seismic sensors screamed as drilling resonance reached the mother plant's root network. Crystal matrices vibrated at increasing frequencies, while debris from Henderson's vessels pierced the upper atmosphere. Joshua coordinated simultaneous responses across multiple channels as the crisis peaked. The ancient repository's future hung in balance, threatened by both natural forces and human greed. Through it all, the Night Blooms continued their endless dance of adaptation and survival, weaving new patterns in ice and crystal as they fought to preserve their genetic legacy. Genetic sequences transferred through crystalline networks as Joshua tracked multiple threats across tactical displays. SREN's urgent voice cut through the command channel. Steel claw neural patterns reaching critical threshold. Medical intervention required immediately. 3 warriors collapsed near thermal regulation nodes, their cybernetic interfaces sparking with crystalline energy. Medical teams deployed portable stasis units, the modified containment technology pulsing with stabilizing fields. Neural mutation accelerating, SREN transmitted, examining diagnostic feeds. The crystalline exposure it's restructuring their interface architecture. Through reinforced observation windows, debris from Henderson's vessels streaked across the sky in burning arcs. Impact warnings flashed as the largest fragments struck near primary evacuation routes. The crystal reinforced shelters held, their adapted structures absorbing kinetic energy. Seismic alerts screamed through command channels. Support columns failing in sectors 7, 12, and 15, MREC transmitted. Structural integrity compromised. A sealed access panel cycled open in the command center's floor. A male Yadaran in unmarked environmental gear emerged, his eyes scanning tactical displays. Defense Systems Engineer Arkal, he transmitted, connecting to the network. I have Kayvon's defense override codes. Arkal transferred facility schematics to shared displays. The control nexus lies through maintenance tunnel Bait 9. Current temperature readings indicate partial flooding from damaged regulators. Near the hidden landing pad, Kane's extraction teams deployed cutting equipment. The specialized tools sliced through crystalline formations, harvesting both night bloom specimens and mineral samples. Multiple breaches detected, Kathax transmitted. Enemy forces securing biological materials. His remaining warriors established a defensive perimeter, careful to avoid damaging ancient ice structures. In the research hub, Pival and K-Mira monitored modified hydroponic arrays. Reactive minerals flowed through reinforced channels, merging with biological circuits. Network stabilizing, K-Mira reported. Crystal growth responding to mineral saturation. The mother plant's root system pulsed with increased bioluminescence. New formations spiraled through ice barriers as Elder Sira studied genetic readouts. The integration it's creating adaptive capabilities beyond projected parameters, Sira transmitted. Elara examined these growth patterns. Elara's fingers danced across botanical interfaces, multiple environment tolerance developing. But the crystal expansion rate. Warning indicators flashed as crystalline structures accelerated through both facilities. Containment fields strained under the hybrid network's expansion. Above them, Agent Wang coordinated with orbital platforms. 3 additional shuttles located in Icefield Grid 7. Specialized containment units detected. Atmospheric interceptors launched from orbital stations, their engines burning bright against the polar night. Vidar and Qatar's modified climate systems generated precise thermal gradients. The controlled temperature variations dampened drilling resonance while reinforcing ice barriers. Harmonic dampening at 60%, Qatar transmitted, clearing sectors for JLAR's demolition team. JLAR's specialists advanced through stabilized corridors, neutralizing Kayvon's charges. First sequence disarmed, moving to secondary placement zones. Deep beneath the facilities, magma pressure readings shifted. Joshua examined thermal imaging data as new heat signatures emerged. Volcanic vent network evolving, T-Lock transmitted. Crystal formations integrating with magma channels. The hybrid biological crystalline matrix continued its expansion through ancient corridors as Joshua coordinated simultaneous operations. Steel Claw warriors fought against neural mutations, while Kane's forces attempted to escape with irreplaceable specimens. Through it all, the mother plant's backup process reached toward a transformation that could reshape their understanding of survival itself. Joshua's tactical displays flashed urgent alerts as crystalline growth rates surged beyond predicted parameters. The hybrid matrices expanded through corridors and chambers, forming translucent support columns that twisted upward like frozen lightning. Growth patterns exceeding safety thresholds, MREC transmitted, examining structural feeds. Wait, these formations are reinforcing compromised sectors. Engineering data streamed across shared displays as the crystal structures integrated with damaged support beams. Stress indicators shifted from red to green as load-bearing capacity increased. A sealed door cycled open with a blast of pressurized air. A female Yadaran in environmental gear stepped through, carrying specialized atmospheric monitoring equipment. Environmental Systems Coordinator P. Rao, she transmitted. The crystal growths are producing oxygen through modified photosynthesis. P. Rao transferred atmospheric data to the command network. In sectors where life support had failed, oxygen levels were rising steadily. The crystalline formations had developed specialized structures that captured and processed available light. Near the concealed landing pad, Marcus Kane's extraction teams deployed plasma cutters against the outer defensive barriers. Blue-white energy arced across ice formations as they carved their way toward the waiting shuttle. Kathax turned to his transformed warriors. Their cybernetic interfaces pulsed with crystalline energy as neural mutations stabilized. Establish barrier control. Channel the ice. The Steel Claw Brigade connected directly to the defensive network. Ice structures flowed like liquid mercury, encasing blackthorn cutting equipment in growing layers of crystalline frost. In the research hub, P-Val studied genetic sequencing data from the mother plant. Third-generation hybridization detected. These specimens can survive vacuum exposure. K-Mira adjusted stasis pod parameters as they cultivated the vacuum-adapted specimens. Through observation windows, maintenance crews deployed the modified plants near hull breaches. Crystal-infused root systems spread across damaged sections, creating biological seals. Vidar and Katar's fingers danced across thermal control interfaces. They redirected geothermal energy through the new biological crystalline conduits, stabilizing both power distribution and magma pressure. Volcanic network stabilizing, Vidar transmitted. Crystal formations conducting thermal exchange at optimal efficiency. SREN monitored the Steel Claw Brigade's neural patterns with growing concern. The crystalline interfaces are creating a linked defense network, but fusion is accelerating. We need extraction protocols. Medical teams prepared specialized equipment designed to separate enhanced warriors from the expanding crystal matrix. Warning indicators tracked increasing levels of cybernetic integration. Agent Wang's orbital sensors detected new energy signatures. Mining drones launching from Henderson's platforms. Specialized cutting equipment detected. Through tactical feeds, Commander Henderson's containment vessels engaged the first wave of drones. Several units evaded defensive fire, their specialized tools beginning to slice through the facility's outer shell. The ancient repository systems responded instantly. Ice formations tracked the hostile drones like guided missiles, encasing them in rapidly expanding crystal structures. Power fluctuations rippled through vital systems as defensive measures drew from the geothermal network. Base Commander Elter coordinated with Elara at master control stations, adjusting power distribution, prioritizing life support while maintaining defensive capacity. Seismic sensors detected new vibrations from the drilling zone. Joshua examined deep-scan data as previously unknown chambers appeared on tactical displays. Chamber breach detected, T-lock transmitted. Kayvon's equipment has accessed a sealed preservation vault. Initial scans revealed rows of stasis pods containing prehistoric night bloom specimens. Their genetic potential remained unknown as Joshua tracked multiple crisis points across both facilities. The Steel Claw Brigade maintained their defensive positions despite visible strain. Crystal structures pulsed through their cybernetic systems as SREN prepared emergency extraction protocols. Time was running out to prevent permanent transformation of their enhanced allies. Through it all, the hybrid biological crystalline network continued its expansion, reshaping ancient corridors as it adapted to meet each new threat. The mother plant's influence spread through every system, guiding the repository's evolution toward an uncertain future. Joshua's tactical displays lit up with urgent biological alerts. The prehistoric chamber's stasis fields fluctuated as ancient night bloom specimens activated, releasing iridescent pollen that drifted through newly exposed chambers. Active biological signatures detected, MREC transmitted. The prehistoric variants are responding to modern night bloom presence. Specialized sensor arrays tracked molecular changes spreading through crystalline structures. The ancient specimens pulsed with bioluminescence, establishing quantum-scale connections with the mother plant's root network. A sealed emergency shelter cycled open near the prehistoric chamber. A female Yadarin in pristine environmental gear emerged, connecting specialized monitoring equipment to nearby data ports. Preservation Specialist Timur, she transmitted. The enzyme production from ancient specimens requires immediate stabilization. Timur's fingers danced across stasis controls as unique chemical compounds flooded preservation pods. The prehistoric night blooms responded instantly, their crystalline growth patterns accelerating through support structures. In the medical bay, SREN studied neural scans from the Steel Claw Brigade. Crystalline formations pulsed through cybernetic interfaces, creating intricate biologico-mechanical linkages. Neural mutation has achieved full integration, SREN transmitted. The enhanced interfaces are forming a distributed environmental control network. Kathax watched his warriors merge with defensive systems. Their bodies anchored to crystalline formations as they gained unprecedented access to facility controls. Ice barriers flowed like liquid metal under their commands. P-Val and K-Mira analyzed genetic data streams from the prehistoric chamber. These specimens evolved specialized mineral absorption processes, K-Mira transmitted. They naturally stabilized the same reactive compounds K-Von weaponized. Through reinforced windows, Marcus Kane's remaining forces deployed modified mining equipment. Cutting beams sliced through outer barriers until ancient defense mechanisms activated. The prehistoric night blooms released crystallizing spores that transformed artificial materials into growing mineral formations. Kathax coordinated with his immobilized brigade members. Channel the defensive spores. Seal primary access points. The partially transformed warriors redirected crystalline growth through tactical networks. Mineral barriers sealed multiple breaches while maintaining clear evacuation routes through reinforced corridors. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara examined newly sprouted seedlings. The hybrid plants displayed adaptive capabilities from both modern and prehistoric genetic markers. These variants can stabilize damaged sectors, Elara transmitted, studying growth patterns. Self-regulating support structures are forming. Agent Wang's orbital sensors detected energy fluctuations from Henderson's platforms. Experimental extraction satellites engaging. They're targeting surface crystalline formations. Focused energy beams lanced toward the planet's surface. Commander Sarah Henderson's defense platforms responded instantly, projecting electromagnetic shields over critical installations. Deep scan data revealed systematic changes in the volcanic network. Joshua tracked thermal imaging as prehistoric night blooms influenced natural magma channels. The ancient specimens are creating crystalline reinforced conduits, T-lock transmitted. Planetary thermal regulation is being altered at the structural level. Seismic sensors detected growing instability. The prehistoric specimens continued expanding their influence through underground chambers as Joshua examined decoded segments of Kayvon's research logs. Additional preservation vaults located, Joshua transmitted. Multiple prehistoric variants preserved beneath other polar regions. Timur adjusted stasis parameters as enzyme levels peaked. The ancient night blooms pushed against containment fields, their adaptive capabilities exceeding projected models. Through it all, the mother plant's backup process incorporated new genetic patterns while magma pressures built beneath both facilities. As a deep rumble shook the preservation chamber. Joshua's sensor arrays lit up with crystalline growth signatures spreading through reinforced walls and support columns. Critical expansion detected, MREC transmitted from the security hub. Crystalline structures encasing primary power conduits and life support systems. The ancient specimens pulsed with increasing bioluminescence, their mineral manipulation capabilities triggering chain reactions through existing biological matrices. Support beams groaned under the rapid crystal formation. A sealed door cycled open in the survey station, adjacent to the prehistoric chamber. A female Yadaran in specialized geological gear emerged, connecting advanced scanning equipment to nearby sensor ports. Deep Core Specialist Emrith, she transmitted. The night blooms are accessing a thermally reactive crystal layer that forms part of the planet's natural cooling system. Emrith transferred geological data to the command network. Deep scan imagery revealed vast crystalline deposits that regulated planetary temperatures, explaining the ancient plant's ice age adaptations. In the defensive hub, Kathax observed his transformed brigade members through reinforced windows. Their cybernetic systems pulsed in synchronization with the facility's crystal matrices as they established unprecedented control over ice barriers. Brigade neural patterns stabilized, SREN transmitted from the medical bay. They're maintaining consciousness while physically anchored to the defensive network. The enhanced warriors channeled precise commands through their crystalline interfaces. Ice formations flowed with liquid precision, sealing breaches as black thorn cutting equipment carved into outer barriers. PVAL's research displays showed complex molecular transformation occurring within damaged sectors. The prehistoric variants are producing specialized enzymes. They're converting Kayvon's weaponized compounds into stable containment structures. Warning indicators flashed as the conversion process accelerated. Pressure sensors detected growing instability in surrounding rock formations as available minerals were rapidly consumed. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara examined the hybrid seedlings with growing interest. The plants demonstrated active control over nearby crystal formations, reshaping mineral structures with precise manipulation. Creating evacuation corridor through Section 7, Elara transmitted, monitoring the seedling's influence. Crystal density optimal for structural integrity. Agent Wang's orbital scans detected multiple launch signatures. Extraction pods deploying from Henderson's platforms. Automated mining units with penetration capability. Commander Sarah Henderson's containment vessels engaged the incoming pods with precise defensive fire. Several units evaded the protective screen, their specialized cutting tools beginning to slice through crystalline barriers. Temperature fluctuations detected, Vidar transmitted from thermal control. The prehistoric specimens are establishing regulated tunnels through the polar region. Qatar examined deep scan data as new passages appeared. Network connects to additional preservation sites. Thermal gradients require careful navigation. Joshua's tactical displays registered a massive power surge from the orbital platforms. Experimental mining lasers powered up, their molecular disruption beams capable of breaking down crystalline structures at their fundamental level. Seismic alerts flashed urgent warnings across command interfaces. The ancient specimen's mineral manipulation had begun affecting core temperature regulation, threatening to destabilize the planet's geological systems. Through reinforced observation ports, the mother plant's crystalline network continued its expansion as prehistoric variants reshaped ancient corridors. The Steel Claw Brigade maintained their defensive integration, allowing Kathax to coordinate facility-wide protection through their enhanced interfaces. Molecular disruption beams charging, Agent Wang transmitted. Henderson's platforms reorienting for maximum penetration. New chambers formed in the crystalline maze as prehistoric night blooms extended their influence through both facilities. Joshua tracked multiple crisis points, while the ancient specimens pushed the limits of their mineral manipulation capabilities. Intense light flared across tactical displays as Henderson's orbital mining lasers engaged. Concentrated beams struck the crystalline structures, creating spreading fracture patterns through outer defensive layers. Multiple penetration points detected, MREC transmitted, fingers flying across engineering controls, redirecting power to modified shield arrays. The Steel Claw Brigade's crystalline network pulsed with redirected energy. Shield generators activated in precise sequence, projecting reinforced barriers around critical systems and the prehistoric chamber. A sealed blast door slid open in the geological monitoring station. A male Yadaran in specialized scanning gear emerged, connecting portable analysis equipment to nearby sensor arrays. Deep Core Analysis Chief K-Rel, he transmitted. The Night Bloom's mineral manipulation has created an integrated thermal regulation network throughout the polar region. K-Rel transferred detailed geological scans to the command interface. The data revealed an intricate crystalline system naturally maintaining planetary temperature balance. Disrupting these formations will trigger severe climate destabilization, K-Rel transmitted, highlighting critical junctions in the network. P-Val's research displays showed new crystalline growth patterns forming across the facility's exterior. The prehistoric specimens produced specialized formations that reflected and dispersed incoming energy weapons. Defensive crystallization accelerating, P-Val transmitted. Mineral consumption creating structural voids beneath both facilities. In the medical bay, SREN monitored neural patterns from the Steel Claw Brigade. Their cybernetic systems established direct connections to nearby volcanic vents, channeling and redirecting thermal energy through crystal matrices. Brigade members stabilizing affected sectors, SREN transmitted. Each energy transfer increases crystal integration. The enhanced warriors anchored themselves to key defensive positions. Their bodies pulsed with redirected thermal energy as they reinforced sections threatened by growing seismic activity. Kathax coordinated with base commander Eltur through the crystalline network, establishing containment around thermal regulation nodes. Kane's forces approaching preservation sites in sectors 3 and 7. Agent Wang's orbital scans detected critical failures spreading through Henderson's mining platforms. Power systems overloading, experimental lasers releasing uncontrolled energy pulses. The platform's structural integrity failed as emergency protocols engaged. Commander Sarah Henderson diverted power to stabilization systems, preventing the orbital stations from impacting critical facility locations. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara examined the mother plant's hybrid seedlings. The plants responded to dispersed energy from the defensive formations, establishing specialized root networks that spread through expanding subterranean spaces. Root system stabilizing cavity formation, Elara transmitted. Containment stressed but holding. Joshua's tactical displays registered massive power fluctuations from the prehistoric chamber. Ancient defense mechanisms activated as crystalline formations produced specialized compounds that began neutralizing both Kayvon samples and orbital attacks. Seismic sensors detected new thermal activity as the brigade's energy redistribution affected dormant volcanic vents. Pressurized magma chambers formed beneath both facilities, the fluid rock mass flowing through crystal reinforced channels. Magma network established, T-lock transmitted from geological control. Pressure readings indicate potential structural reinforcement if properly contained. The prehistoric specimens continued producing defensive formations as Henderson's remaining orbital lasers carved glowing fissures through outer barriers. Shield generators pulsed with strain, while the Steel Claw Brigade channeled increasing thermal energy through their enhanced interfaces. The crystalline network pulsed with escalating energy as Joshua's sensor arrays registered cascading failures throughout primary systems. Ancient defense mechanisms within the prehistoric chamber activated, interacting with the brigade's neural interfaces in unexpected patterns. Multiple structural reconfigurations in progress, Joshua transmitted, tracking automated responses across both facilities. The defensive compounds are integrating with existing architecture. Reinforced chambers materialize through precise mineral manipulation, crystalline barriers sealing threatened sections as Henderson's orbital weapons carved through outer defenses. Security Chief MREX monitoring stations illuminated with spreading patterns of crystal growth. Detecting hierarchical crystalline formation, MREC transmitted. Environmental control systems transitioning to centralized crystal matrix. A previously hidden door dematerialized in the research sector, revealing a sealed vault adjacent to the prehistoric chamber. A female Yadarin emerged, her specialized equipment covered in preservation crystals. Crystalline Systems Specialist L. Rin, she transmitted, connecting to nearby interfaces. These specimens evolved during multiple ice ages, creating self-sustaining biospheres through mineral manipulation. Elrin's hands moved across ancient control surfaces, activating dormant stabilization protocols. The crystal structures respond to thermal variations, forming adaptive support networks. In the medical bay, SREN monitored neural spikes from the Steel Claw Brigade. Their cybernetic systems synchronized with prehistoric defense mechanisms, establishing precise control over crystalline growth patterns. Brigade neural patterns matching ancient frequencies, SREN transmitted. They're redirecting defensive compounds to create stable evacuation routes. The enhanced warriors channeled commands through their interfaces, crystal formations flowing like liquid architecture to maintain structural integrity while carving safe passages through the expanding maze. P-Val's analysis stations processed data from the new magma chambers. The specimens are converting volcanic energy into sustainable power matrices. Thermal conversion rates exceeding safety parameters. Heat pockets formed throughout both facilities as the prehistoric night blooms tapped into magma flows. Warning indicators flashed across thermal regulation displays, showing systems approaching critical limits. Sonic pulses shattered outer crystal barriers as Kane's forces deployed experimental disruptors. Commander Kathax coordinated with integrated brigade members through the crystalline network. Redirecting defensive compounds, Kathax transmitted, using specimen resonance patterns to counter sonic attacks. The ancient compounds flowed around critical containment zones, their molecular structure shifting to absorb and neutralize the devastating sound waves. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara observed unprecedented changes in the hybrid seedlings. The enhanced plants produced specialized crystalline nodes, establishing direct connections to facility power systems. Seedlings creating automated power distribution network, LRA transmitted, bypassing damaged sectors while maintaining critical functions. Agent Wang's orbital scans detected catastrophic energy signatures from Henderson's platforms, mining laser containment failing, emergency shutdown releasing concentrated energy pulses. Brilliant streams of uncontrolled energy lanced toward the surface as the experimental weapons overloaded. Commander Sarah Henderson's defensive platforms projected experimental shields over key installations, protecting them from the cascading energy release. Joshua's deep scan arrays registered massive crystal growth beneath the polar ice. New formations accessing dormant mineral deposits, creating reinforced chamber network through deep ice zones. The prehistoric specimens consumed available minerals at an accelerating rate, threatening to trigger additional seismic events. Through their enhanced connection to the crystalline network, the Steel Claw Brigade detected energy signatures matching additional preservation vaults. Located specialized variant chambers, Kathax transmitted. Pressure-adapted specimens preserved in deep thermal zones. The ancient night blooms continued reshaping both facilities' internal architecture as Joshua coordinated responses to multiple system failures. Through it all, the mother plant's hybrid seedlings established increasingly sophisticated connections to the expanding crystalline network. Joshua's sensor arrays registered a critical shift in crystalline formation patterns. The prehistoric specimens' defensive structures flowed like liquid glass, merging with primary support beams and load-bearing walls throughout both facilities. Structural integration detected, MREC transmitted, analyzing real-time data feeds. Crystal matrices exhibiting unprecedented tensile properties. His displays showed the formations creating a self-reinforcing network of organic mineral hybrid columns. A sealed door dissolved in the hybridization chamber adjacent to the mother plant's containment area. Through the opening stepped a female Yadaran in specialized integration gear, her equipment covered in active crystalline nodes. Biological integration specialist Army, she transmitted, immediately connecting to nearby control interfaces. The brigade's neural patterns require stabilization. Their cybernetic systems are approaching crystalline saturation. Army's fingers flew across ancient control surfaces as she initiated emergency stabilization protocols. The Steel Claw Brigade's enhanced warriors responded instantly, their neural patterns synchronizing with the evolving crystal network. Orbital alerts flashed urgent warnings across command displays. Agent Wang's tracking systems registered Henderson's platforms breaking apart in high orbit. Multiple debris impacts incoming, Wang transmitted. Mining laser cores entering critical meltdown. Brilliant energy pulses pierced the atmosphere as failing power cores released their contained potential. Commander Sarah Henderson's remaining forces projected experimental containment fields, creating a protective barrier above critical facility sections. The prehistoric night blooms responded with impossible speed. Their crystalline formations reconfigured automatically, transforming to intercept and absorb the incoming energy attacks. PVAL's research displays tracked the conversion process in real time. Specimens channeling weapon energy through Brigade Neural Network, PVAL transmitted. Power redistribution reinforcing containment zones. The ground shook as modified drilling vehicles breached outer defensive perimeters. Kane's forces targeted newly exposed thermal regulation nodes, threatening to destabilize the crystal network's temperature control systems. Kathax coordinated through enhanced brigade interfaces, extending crystal barriers around thermal nodes. Elter's automated turrets engaging hostile vehicles. Defense turrets emerged from crystalline walls, their targeting systems adapted to operate within the maze-like formations. Precise energy bursts disabled drilling equipment while minimizing structural damage to critical support columns. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara monitored the mother plant's hybrid seedlings. The enhanced specimens produced specialized anchor points that spread through both facilities' foundations. Seedlings creating pressure distribution network, Elara transmitted. Subterranean cavity stabilization at 60%. Agent Wang's orbital tracking registered a new threat pattern. Platform debris entering terminal descent vectors. Surface impacts imminent. Superheated fragments carved glowing trails through the atmosphere. The Special Containment Division activated emergency protocols, evacuating exposed surface installations as falling wreckage threatened to overwhelm defensive screens. Joshua's deep scan arrays detected systematic changes spreading beyond the polar region. The prehistoric specimens released clouds of specialized spores that began affecting mineral deposits across continental boundaries. Crystalline conversion extending to broader geological systems, Joshua transmitted, detecting widespread mineral restructuring. Through their enhanced connection to the crystal network, the Steel Claw Brigade detected energy signatures from deep beneath Yadira Prime's equatorial zones. Ancient preservation chambers housed specialized night bloom variants adapted to extreme thermal conditions. Army analyzed the detection patterns through hybridization interfaces. Heat-adapted specimens could complete planetary stabilization process. Improper activation risks catastrophic geological cascade. The crystalline maze continued its expansion as ancient defense mechanisms responded to multiple threats. Henderson's orbital debris created impact craters across the polar surface, while Kane's forces probed for weaknesses in the evolving facility defenses. Through it all, the prehistoric night blooms maintained their relentless transformation of Yadira Prime's mineral structure. Joshua's sensor arrays detected crystalline growth patterns spreading beyond the polar containment zone. Mineral deposits beneath Yadira Prime's primary agricultural regions registered systematic changes as defensive spores infiltrated deeper soil layers. Agricultural zone disruption detected, MREC transmitted, tracking soil composition shifts across continental boundaries. Crystal matrices forming in primary farming complexes. A transport pod arrived from the nearest compromised agricultural facility. A female Yadiran emerged, carrying extensive soil analysis equipment. Agricultural Systems Director Envra, she transmitted, connecting to Joshua's data network. Initial disruption appears severe, but soil samples indicate enhanced mineral content supporting accelerated crop growth. Envra's monitoring equipment displayed real-time changes in affected zones. The crystal structures are creating nutrient distribution networks. Once stabilized, farming yields could increase by 40%. Through their enhanced neural interfaces, the Steel Claw Brigade detected the expanding crystalline network. SREN's medical sensors registered unprecedented synchronization between their cybernetic systems and the prehistoric defense mechanisms. Brigade neural patterns achieving continental-scale crystal control, SREN transmitted. Integration rate accelerating beyond sustainable parameters. The enhanced warriors channeled commands through the growing network, precise adjustments flowing outward from their position. Crystalline structures responded instantly, forming regulated support patterns beneath threatened agricultural zones. PVAL's research displays illuminated with energy signatures from the equatorial chambers. Heat-adapted specimens activating, detecting specialized spore release in deep thermal zones. The prehistoric variants responded to planetary-scale changes, converting magma chambers into crystalline support structures. Stable thermal regulation networks formed beneath major fault lines as the ancient specimens established control over tectonic pressures. Kane's remaining drill vehicles targeted exposed chamber access points. Kathax coordinated through the brigade's enhanced connection to the crystal network. Defensive formations extending to equatorial targets, Kathax transmitted. Elter's surface teams reporting successful containment of unstable zones. The mother plant's hybrid seedlings produced specialized adaptation nodes when exposed to thermal variant samples. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara monitored the resulting changes. Hybrid specimens establishing regulatory interface, Elara transmitted. Different night bloom strains achieving synchronized growth patterns. Agent Wang's orbital tracking registered catastrophic failures throughout Henderson's remaining platforms. Defense network compromising planetary approach vectors, establishing alternative traffic corridors through debris field. Commander Sarah Henderson's forces projected containment fields around critical reentry paths while maintaining automated defense coverage. Joshua's deep scan arrays detected ancient systems beneath Yadira Prime's oceans. Prehistoric regulator network detected, Joshua transmitted. Crystalline integration required within 48 hours to prevent systemic geological failure. The Steel Claw Brigade's enhanced perception revealed inactive terraforming nodes spanning the planet's maritime zones. Their neural interfaces registered dormant control mechanisms waiting to reactivate through proper crystal synchronization. Envra's soil analysis equipment detected accelerating changes in agricultural zones. Crystal Matrix establishing automated irrigation channels. Nutrient flow optimization at 30% capacity. The prehistoric specimens continued releasing specialized spores, their defensive compounds spreading through continental mineral deposits. Security, Chief MREX monitoring stations tracked the systematic transformation of Yadira Prime's geological systems. Detecting harmonized crystal growth across all major continents, MREC transmitted. Soil enrichment processes achieving stable propagation rates. Research Director Pival coordinated with Envra to analyze agricultural impact patterns. Their combined data revealed precision mineral manipulation occurring at microscopic scales, transforming basic soil chemistry without disrupting existing root systems. The Steel Claw Brigade's enhanced warriors maintained precise control through their expanding neural connection. SREN's medical sensors registered increasing biological adaptation as their cybernetic systems synchronized with the prehistoric network. Brigade members achieving molecular-scale crystal manipulation, SREN transmitted. Enhanced control accelerating integration process. Deep beneath the surface, ancient terraforming systems waited to reconnect with their crystalline network. Joshua's team prepared for the critical integration phase, while Henderson's orbital debris continued creating hazardous approach conditions above. Joshua's deep scan arrays registered a critical shift in crystalline density patterns. Integration threshold approaching, initiating final phase stabilization. The prehistoric terraforming system activated in precise sequence across continental boundaries. Massive crystalline supports emerged beneath major population centers, their structures flowing seamlessly into existing foundations. MREX monitoring screens displayed a real-time map of the growing network. Crystalline reinforcement extending through tectonic boundaries, MREC transmitted. Population center stability at 80%. A transport pod landed outside the facility's eastern entrance. A female Yadiran in specialized diving gear emerged, carrying advanced marine analysis equipment. Ocean Systems Specialist Kaylin, she transmitted, connecting to the facility network. Coastal station data indicates active prehistoric formations along continental shelves. Kaylin's analysis revealed intricate crystalline patterns beneath ocean currents. Ancient breakwater structures lay dormant, waiting to shield coastal regions from tectonic disruption. The Steel Claw Brigade's neural patterns synchronized with the expanding crystal matrix. SREN's medical displays tracked unprecedented changes in their cybernetic systems. Brigade integration complete, SREN transmitted. Members achieving planetara-scale crystal control. His sensors registered their physical forms anchoring permanently within the mineral structure, establishing life support networks around integration points. P-Val's research screens illuminated with thermal data from equatorial chambers. The heat-resistant night bloom variants produced specialized formations around magma channels, converting geothermal energy into stable power distribution networks. Volcanic stabilization at 60%, P-Val transmitted. Crystal matrices channeling thermal output to population centers. Proximity alerts flashed across security displays. Kane's extraction teams targeted underwater chamber access points, their drill vehicles modified for deep-sea operation. Kathax coordinated through the brigade's enhanced interface. Crystalline barriers extended around oceanic facilities, while Elter's team secured coastal installations. Underwater defensive grid active, Kathax transmitted. Pressure-adapted specimens detected in abyssal chambers. In the research hub, Elder Sira and Elara monitored unprecedented changes in the mother plant's hybrid seedlings. The enhanced specimens created specialized adaptation nodes, enabling controlled crystal growth across varying environmental conditions. Hybrid variants achieving multi-zone synchronization, Elara transmitted. Integration stability exceeding projected parameters. Agent Wang's orbital tracking registered systematic debris clearing operations. Henderson's remaining forces established new approach corridors while constructing crystalline reinforced defensive platforms. Special Containment Division implementing permanent orbital security grid, Wang transmitted. Unauthorized mining prevention protocols active. Joshua's deep scan arrays detected massive crystalline structures forming beneath Yadira Prime's oceans. The ancient breakwater system activated in controlled sequence, creating stable tidal barriers around continental boundaries. Seismic monitoring stations registered decreasing tectonic instability. Deep-sea sensors illuminated with unusual energy signatures from previously unknown abyssal chambers. Detecting pressure-adapted night bloom variants, Joshua transmitted. Abyssal specimens exhibiting enhanced stabilization properties. Kalin's marine analysis equipment tracked crystal formation patterns along ocean floor boundaries. Ancient breakwater system achieving optimal distribution. Coastal protection grid at 70% capacity. The prehistoric terraforming network continued its systematic integration as Joshua's team monitored critical stability parameters. Deep beneath Yadira Prime's oceans, pressure-adapted specimens waited to complete the final phase of planetary transformation. Deep pressure signatures detected in abyssal zone, Kaylin transmitted, her marine sensors illuminating with intense crystalline activity. Primary formation phase initiating. Joshua's monitoring screens displayed a massive crystalline structure materializing around the deep ocean chambers. The pressure-adapted night bloom variants activated in synchronized sequence, their specialized formations weaving through ancient support columns. A sleek submersible pod surfaced near the coastal research station. Undersea Research Director H. Tal emerged, her diving suit covered in bioluminescent crystal fragments. Abyssal specimens exhibit unprecedented pressure tolerance, she transmitted, connecting her data core to the facility network. These variants process conditions at depths exceeding 30,000 meters. H-Tal's analysis revealed intricate adaptations within the deep-sea specimens. Their crystalline structures maintained perfect stability despite crushing pressures, creating resilient foundations for the planetary network. In the Brigade Integration Chamber, SREN's medical displays tracked the final phase of cybernetic transformation. The enhanced warrior's neural patterns achieved complete synchronization with the crystal matrix, their consciousness expanding across continental boundaries. Life support systems anchored, SREN transmitted, adjusting containment parameters around the integration points. Brigade members achieving stable network interface. Kathax's enhanced awareness extended through the crystalline formations, his consciousness touching every node in the planetary grid. Through his connection, the entire brigade functioned as living regulators, maintaining precise control over the expanding system. The mother plant chamber illuminated with intense biological activity. Elder Sira and Elara observed specialized adaptation nodes forming within the central specimen. The hybrid seedlings incorporated genetic patterns from every discovered variant, producing a new strain of night bloom. Ultimate adaptation achieved, Elara transmitted. Hybrid specimens establishing multi-environment viability. PVAL's research screens displayed systematic conversion of K-Von's weaponized minerals. The prehistoric terraforming system transformed unstable deposits into crystalline support columns, their structures extending beneath major population centers. Deep-sea sensor arrays detected unusual movement near the abyssal chambers. Kane's extraction vessels, modified for extreme depths, attempted to breach the underwater formations. Their drilling equipment contacted the crystal structures and immediately began to transform. Crystalline reaction spreading through hostile vessels, Kaylin transmitted. Hull integrity compromising. The orbital defense network activated. Henderson's enhanced sensors tracking escape trajectories through the debris field. Eltur's security teams moved swiftly, securing Kane and his surviving operatives as their equipment succumbed to the crystal transformation. Agent Wang coordinated through the facility's command network, implementing permanent containment protocols. All-night bloom repositories achieving maximum security status. The prehistoric defense system responded, creating impenetrable barriers around critical storage zones while maintaining authorized access channels. Joshua's deep scan arrays registered perfect stability across all integration points as the hybrid network achieved full activation. In the mother plant chamber, Elder Sira activated the ceremonial interface. Crystalline displays illuminated with the complete history of Joshua's intervention, from the initial facility defense to the final planetary stabilization. The Steel Claw Brigade, now permanent sentinels within the crystal matrix, channeled their enhanced awareness into a spectacular demonstration. Bioluminescent formations emerged across Yadira Prime's surface, their patterns telling the story of humanity's partnership with Yadiran botanical science. Kathax transmitted through the planetary network, his consciousness spanning the unified ecosystem. Crystal matrix achieving optimal distribution. Integration phase complete. Joshua's monitoring screens displayed the final stabilization readings as deep-sea formations anchored the planetary grid. The hybrid network pulsed with steady energy, surface installations, merging seamlessly with underground structures. HTAL's analysis equipment registered unprecedented harmony between abyssal and surface specimens. Deep ocean variants synchronizing with continental formations. Pressure adaptation protocols exceeding design parameters.